All right, we are live. What is going on, everybody? This is the Xbox 2 podcast. I am one of your hosts, Randall Thor 19, the man with the million. And with me, who has survived this trek up to the mountains, and has discovered no Xbox news.
No.
The one, the only, Jez Corden of Windows Central. What's going on?
Hey man, it's interesting to be here on a Monday. It's not so regular. I think we've only done this like once or twice in the past, right?
A couple times. Yeah.
That's cool and fun and interesting, but yeah, I'm doing pretty good, man. I actually had altitude sickness yesterday and this morning. So that was an interesting experience, but I've slept it off now. I don't recommend getting altitude sickness, frankly, but it wasn't so bad. But yeah, I trekked up to the mountain. I went to the Zugspitze, which is Germany's highest mountain, and I was seeking Xbox news. Alas, there was none up there. Just snow and interesting birds that had no fear of humans. So that was cool. But made it back to the hot seat, and that's why we didn't podcast on Friday, because I was preparing to go on this trek and survived. But I thought, there's enough stuff to discuss, and I wanted to talk about it with you.
Yes.
So I was like, yeah, let's try doing a Monday show.
Well, like, because normally I'll be like, are we on for a podcast tomorrow? And Jez will be like, yeah. Or he'll be like, no, it can't, Saturday. And then sometimes I'll be like, I can't do it Friday, we'll do it Saturday. And then Jez was, we had canceled a couple weeks ago. And then you brought it up out of nowhere. You're like, can't do the show this week, going on vacation up a mountain. I'm like, huh? and then we announced that we weren't doing a show this last week, and people were like, does this mean Xbox 2 is canceled forever? Is this the last episode? And we're like, no. And then you were like, let's just do a show on Monday to make up for, not doing it. And we're still going to be doing a show this Friday. Hopefully there'll be some hopefully the Xbox news follows Jez down the mountain, and we can talk about some actual confirmed things. But yeah, so that's why we're doing the show on Monday, because I didn't feel right canceling 2 episodes in a month, even though there's really not like the largest gaming stuff to talk about. I hate missing. But before we get into all that, Jez, is Xbox 2 powered by anything this week?
We are indeed, Rand, once again powered by Manscaped. Rand, when I was climbing up the mountain the other day, I was thinking about the fact that, like, it's pretty chilly up here, It's pretty damn chilly because, Manscaped products are pretty close when it comes to shaving those balls, Rand.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have used some extra fur up there when I was 3,000 meters above sea level. But damn, I did feel quite comfortable while I was up there. I have to say, using my lawnmower trimmer 4.0 and various other Manscaped products from manscaped.com to keep my jewels shiny and sexy. You too can have shiny and sexy balls, Rand, with the code XB2. That's XB and the number 2 in the checkout on manscaped.com, who are sponsoring this week's show and probably next week's show, and maybe even the show after that. So thanks a ton to manscaped.com for sponsoring this video and our future ones as well. And everyone there, if you head over there, and it helps support us on our channel, and we vastly appreciate you guys checking out Manscaped.
You shared a tweet with me the other day from someone who bought 10 boxers using the code XB2, and
yes.
You've been because it's not just the lawnmower products. It's not just like getting your balls shaved for your girlfriend or your boyfriend, right? It's not just that. They have other products as well. And you've been going on and on about how the boxers are like the best ever. And
I love the boxers.
You love the boxers. But then I saw a tweet from someone who said he bought like 10 of them. And he's been using them for a while. And he agrees with you that they are the best undergarment a man can use. So if you're not interested in grooming your balls, maybe you're interested in trying out a new pair of boxers, head over to Manscaped, check out code XB2, 20% off, free shipping, and maybe you'll like it, you know what I mean?
Indeed. Indeed. But yeah, Manscaped have been really good to the show, and you guys supporting us through Manscaped has been really awesome as well, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
But Rand, we've got some news to get into now. Some Xboxy news, kind of light news, and also some tech news in the Twitter sphere. Twitter's just being acquired for $43 billion by Mr. Musk of crypto and Tesla fame.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about this? What's your?
It's interesting. It's interesting. I'm not freaking out and panicking like some people are. Some people are like, "Oh my god, it's the end of Twitter" and stuff like that. And there are rumors he wants to add a paywall to it. Like I saw some journalists tweeting that out. But like Twitter already has like a premium mode, so maybe he just wants to expand that. I always kind of felt Twitter's like. I agree with Elon when he says that Twitter has unlocked potential, because I feel like Twitter's biggest issue was always that they didn't know how to develop new features. Like they literally had TikTok in the palm of their hands in Vine, and they did nothing with it. They literally had TikTok and they flubbed it. That Twitter could have TikTok right now. And because they were like so stuck on this idea that video should only be 6 seconds long for whatever reason. I mean, maybe they did it for bandwidth, or they didn't want to invest in servers or something. But like you couldn't really do much with 6 seconds worth of video with Vine. So like, I feel like if Elon Musk was running the show, maybe he would have had the forethought to be like, yeah, maybe we can make these a bit longer. Get them out to a minute or 2 minutes or however long TikTok is. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with it, I suppose. And I'm a huge fan of Twitter. Obviously, I built my whole damn career through Twitter, so. We'll see what happens. I'm interested to see where it goes, but you're not a huge Twitter guy, though.
No. I'm not a huge Twitter guy. It doesn't really particularly matter to me. I mean, I would like for there not to be a paywall, because I do like looking at Twitter here and there. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe this will get me out of my social media. Basically, I wouldn't call it a funk, but like I don't really use Twitter that much, and you always push me to use social media more, but here's the thing between me and Jez. Jez will tweet out like whatever he's thinking, whatever dumb thing he's thinking, whatever stupid picture he finds, like beans and donuts or beans and whatever the hell it is, and
Dude,
I sit there.
Stupid.
I sit there. I'm just saying. I sit there and I'm like, does anybody want to even hear my inner thoughts? Like, I don't really have anything to say that I think people would want to, I don't know, like or retweet. So I just don't say anything. Like, you're just out here talking about whatever comes to your head. You got diarrhea of the mouth of Twitter, basically.
Yeah, diarrhea of the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love posting the beans and seeing all the reactions.
Yeah.
Because, you want to know the truth, Rand?
What?
I can't eat beans.
Well, really?
I can't eat beans anymore. Like, like people who listen to the show for a while, they remember I had like all these stomach problems last year.
Yeah.
One of the things I can't eat anymore is beans. Any kind of beans. I can't eat like baked beans, or even like cocoa beans or runner beans or any kind of beans. I don't know why. But so because I suffer by not being able to eat beans, which is a cornerstone of a British diet, I have to punish everyone else with all my beans pictures, man.
Yeah. So, while everybody kind of moseys on in, we got a lot of topics to talk about. Can you guys do us a big favor? Make sure you hit that like button. Let's try to get it up to, 500 likes before the end of the show. Would be pretty rad. Please share this out wherever you share things, Facebook, Twitter. Let people know that the show is live on a Monday. Normally we don't do the show on Mondays, so I'm sure a lot of people are probably going to say, I didn't know you guys did a show on Monday. YouTube never gave me no notification. And it's like, yeah, YouTube sucks like that. Although I guess it's our fault for doing the show on Monday, but, we felt like we had to do it. Got a couple super chats here I want to read out. Outbreak Podcast, thank you for being here, buddy. He says, thanks, Rand, for your awesome interview. That's right. A couple weeks ago, I did a interview with Outbreak Podcast,
Nice.
Basically talking about myself, and I feel odd, weird talking about myself so much, but yeah, I was basically trying to getting to know the who I really am, I suppose. So it was interesting doing the podcast with them. So, thanks for inviting me, and, guys, go check it out if you want to learn more about Randall Thor 19. Drawn TJ says, hi, Rand and Jez. What's going on, Drawn? Hope you're having a good day. Hope everybody is having a really good Monday. What would be a great gift would be Xbox news. I thought you were going to come down to the mountain bearing gifts of all the things that Xbox, like new things that Xbox was going to announce. And there's this undercurrent of people were sure something was going to be announced today. In fact, I saw people saying that, well, Rand and Jez are doing their podcast on Monday. They must know something's going on. What do you got to say to that, Jez?
Man, it's just a coincidence. Like, people thought I was teasing stuff when I was going up the mountain saying, like, I'm looking for Xbox news up here. I was just memeing the fact there hasn't been any news. Like, I traveled to the end of the earth and there's still no news. It's
I climbed a freaking mountain to find some news, and ain't nothing.
There's nothing. So I wasn't teasing anything. But there's always whispers and stuff. But when it comes to like substantiated, like good stuff, I still digging.
Yeah.
You mentioned that some people were expecting some news today. I don't know. I'm sure there will be some news this week, but will it be big news? Will it be a big deal? I don't know. But there was some interesting information being thrown out there about Halo.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like Blizzard's doing a lot of stuff recently out of the blue. After I don't know, it felt like Blizzard had a whole year where it was just bad news, negative news, and the lawsuit and the people getting fired for being abusive and all that stuff. But it feels like Blizzard's getting back into its mojo now. There's like lots of positive Blizzard news coming out lately. Diablo Immortal's coming to PC, and if it's coming to PC with crossplay, stands to reason it's almost definitely going to come to console, especially if they join Xbox. New Warcraft expansion, which I know nobody but me cares about on the show.
No Warcraft expansion, and them saying no to no Xbox port too.
Yeah, new Warcraft expansion, but no console port. Even though there's a mod called Console Port for Warcraft, which lets you play it with an Xbox controller. I'm probably going to do an article about that this week or next week. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's all fun games. Have you been playing anything lately, Rand? We used to do this whole segment like what I've been playing this week, but we haven't done it for a while.
Well, I mean, we did when we were playing Elden Ring, but Chat got upset at us for always talking about Elden Ring for so long. Remember? It was like, yeah, we're playing Elden Ring, and they played Sifu. I've been playing some NBA 2K22 with Dealer, Fonzarelli, Code Eastwood, Gaming Forte, Mav. It's been a lot of fun. But yeah, what else? I play a little bit of Fortnite. No build mode. It's all right. I can see why people like it. What?
Not a fan. No build mode.
Not really. No, I think
saw
it's just
a lot
not
of
a fan
people a lot of people who didn't like it before now seem to like it.
Well, yeah, I mean, for those are people probably like the game and just hated the building, so now they're like, well, there's no building, so the game's great. Yeah. I don't know. There's nothing really interesting that's caught my attention. I'm just kind of waiting for the bigger games to come out, like Starfield and God of War Ragnarok, which there's been a lot of debate about whether or not God of War Ragnarok is going to come out this year. Right? The 4-year anniversary just passed. They didn't mention anything about a release date. Yeah, I think God of War is coming this year. I think you're probably looking for a September release more than likely. I feel like Sony Santa Monica is confident that they'll hit it. But I wonder how cautious Sony's going to be after. Seems like Horizon didn't really set the world on fire because Elden Ring was just. Elden Ring just sucked all the air out of the room, and there was nothing left for anything. Although I wonder if that means maybe they should speed up the process of day one PC games. Because a lot of people think that, and this will tie into one of our segments we'll get into in a little bit, but that Xbox putting their games on PC is a detriment to the console ecosystem, right? That you don't need to buy an Xbox to experience Xbox games. And that is true. Like, if you want to play everything that
Literally.
Xbox has, you can play it on your PC. You don't have to buy an Xbox console. But it definitely seems like people want to play on the Xbox consoles, and that people actually do desire the Xbox Series S. You know, that little small console that Microsoft made that a lot of people in the games media was like, who wants this? Nobody's going to buy this. Well, a lot of those people are eating their words at this point. So
Yes.
I honestly don't think putting your games day one on PC affects really anything. In fact, I think it only increases the visibility of your games, right?
Yeah.
You have like Forza Horizon 5 almost at 20 million after a couple months. You know, Halo Infinite at 20 million, which, yeah, I mean, it probably could have done better on PC, but without a Battle Royale, you know, probably tapped out its audience. But when Starfield comes out this fall, Starfield is going to be absolutely massive. And that's because of the synergy between launching on console and launching on PC day one, where you have these huge platforms and you can tap into each one, and they kind of like they kind of bounce back and forth out of one another. Everyone's playing it on PC, everyone's playing it on Xbox, everyone's playing it on Game Pass. Everybody sees you're playing it on PC or sees you playing it on Xbox, and then they get FOMO and they want to play it. So I actually do kind of think it's to Sony's detriment a little bit that they're not embracing day one PC. It seems like they're getting closer to releasing, day and date. I did see that it would leak the Uncharted collection is coming out in June, which would be like a 5-month window.
I would bet money. Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, I was just
saying I would bet money that PlayStation's just finalizing the dev pipeline for PC launches.
Yeah, probably.
It's gonna happen.
Because
just a matter of when.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about it in a little bit, but like, if you guys haven't seen, NPD released their results, and Xbox had their best March since 2011, in an era where you don't need an Xbox console to play Xbox games, in an era where there isn't even any first-party games out from Xbox, and they're doing better than they ever have before. So explain that to me. When you don't even need a console, but yet they're selling more than the 360 and they're selling more than the Xbox One. Like, you got to think about that. But anyways, Flame, who's been a member for 11 months, says, Jez, you got pranked, bro. They sent you to a mountain for Xbox news while Blizzard prepped the Diablo Immortal to PC news. Hashtag out of season April Fool's joke.
Wow. I actually knew about that beforehand. And I actually said to my team, don't cover this because I'm going to have it prepared for when it gets announced. But because I had altitude sickness, I slept through all my alarms and didn't cover it. So I actually ended up not getting the news out on time. Thankfully, Samuel Tarbert from my team jumped on that very, very quickly when he noticed that I was still asleep. So shout out to Samuel for that. But yeah, Diablo Immortal coming to PC, which is really funny when you think about the memes. Don't you guys have phones? When they announced it, everyone was mad that it wasn't coming to PC or anything except for mobile devices. And then Blizzard's gone and pulled a 180, and now they're doing a simultaneous launch on PC and mobile, which is great news.
It seems to me that people are actually anticipating Diablo Immortal at this point, where people were making fun of it before. Like, when the guy was like, is this an out of season April Fool's joke? It seems like people are, honest to God, anticipating playing Diablo Immortal. What a change.
Dude, I knew from day one that Diablo Immortal was going to be huge. Like, there was this whole meme about it being like, oh my God, how dare you announce this? Because everyone was waiting for Diablo 4. They wanted Diablo 4. They wanted the return to the dark art style. They wanted Diablo 4, and Blizzard didn't give it to them. So that's where a lot of that comes from. But I knew that everyone was going to play Diablo Immortal, and I knew it was going to be huge. I knew it was going to be huge in Asia, and obviously it's being developed by Tencent, NetEase. I can't remember. It's Tencent and NetEase, one of them. And there's a lot of Diablo clones that are just massive on mobile already. So it was obvious, you bring the original Diablo to mobile, of course it's going to be massive, And then it went into beta, and I played it. And it's actually really good. It's a really fun game. It's got really cool combat system that works really well with touch, and playing it on like a big phone like the Galaxy Fold, it just feels great to play, you know. So even then, I was just like, yeah, I know this is going to be a huge deal. But bringing it to PC and most likely console with cross-play and cross-progression, which is what they've announced, at least for PC, that it has cross-play and cross-progression. It stands to reason that it'll come to Xbox as well in the future, especially with Xbox trying to buy the company. And it'll be a really good sort of casual, free-to-play kind of option that'll sit alongside Diablo 4. It won't cannibalize Diablo 4 because Diablo 4, I think, is going to be ultimately a different experience. It's going to be sort of, I don't know, Diablo 4 is going to be the sort of more hardcore experience, the deeper experience, more story-driven experience. Whereas Diablo Immortal is going to be sort of like rapid fire, jump on for like the levels are like 5 minutes long. You know, you play it on a phone, casual sort of game. It's probably going to have like microtransactions all over the shop, and you know they'll use the money from that to finance the games that the core fans want. You know, so. I'm cool with it. The fact that we're getting both is good in my view. And you know, I've actually seen Diablo 4 gameplay, and it
well, I
honestly
mean, I
just
think hasn't everybody seen Diablo 4 gameplay? Or have you
yeah,
seen
but like I've seen more
unofficial?
recent.
Ah,
I've seen
okay.
more recent gameplay. So like Diablo 4 is like, it just looks incredible. It just like it's a game that I never thought Blizzard would make. Like the photorealism and stuff like that. Truth Teller says, "Do you know if Diablo 4 is coming to Xbox?" Yeah, it's announced for consoles. It's announced for PlayStation and Xbox, and it just looks incredible. It looks absolutely amazing. You know, as a Diablo fan who like you know wants it to be more of a gothic experience and less of a sort of cartoony experience, man, it just looks like a dream sort of action RPG. So I'm really hyped for that. But it does feel like Blizzard's getting its mojo back lately. You know, they've you know the Overwatch 2 beta goes live tomorrow, and when they announced that they crashed the whole website because of people trying to sign up to it. Diablo Immortal coming to PC. They announced Warcraft expansion. Diablo 4 looks great, and they just got loads of stuff coming down the pipeline, and all that's going to be feeding into Xbox's you know revenue, presumably by next year, hopefully. And yeah, future's bright, man.
Yeah.
I'm happy as a Blizzard fan.
Well, CJAD93 in the super chat says, "Hey, Rand and Jez. Jez, how's the weight loss program going? Not heard an update in a while. Have a great show."
Thank you so much for the support. And my weight loss is sort of stalled. It's sort of like I haven't really been trying that hard. I haven't gained weight, but I haven't lost weight. So it's sort of like evened out. But when I go to England at the end of this month, I'm gonna try and ramp it up again. I don't know why. I find it easier to diet in England. I don't know why. I find it easier to diet in England than I do in Germany. I don't know what that is. I think it's because England lists the calories more clearly on their packaging, partially, which lets me be a bit more lazy with it. But I don't know. But I haven't gained weight. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I haven't gone up.
Yeah.
Thank you to Elder John Christ for the super chat. Hero says, "Wait, where's Randall Cam? Elon Musk should buy you." Well, you know, I'm for sale, Elon. You know, spend some money on me and I'll go on camera. I already told people when I go on camera, so you know,
Yeah.
100,000 subs. We reached that milestone. This podcast will definitely be on. We'll have to have Sean LeBrie make like a new background, and then you guys will be like, "Wait a minute, go off camera. We enjoyed it before." So that's exactly what's gonna happen. Let's see here. What else we got? BC says Jack equals Block Head, Elon equals Techno King, Phil equals Game Boy, Nick equals Shrimp Cream. Activision Blizz deal was more than Twitter equals mind blown. Yeah, it was more than Twitter, wasn't it? You have been demonetized. Says this is the first time in months I've actually caught the show live, so I thought I'd be the one guy per episode who asks about Scalebound. Somebody, I was
actually. Sorry, go on.
I was on Xbox Era this past weekend with the guys, John and Nick, and somebody super chatted that too, basically being like, "Well, Rand's here, so here's a super chat about Scalebound." So
Yeah, I was actually thinking about Scalebound because one of the features Blizzard has announced for the next WoW expansion is literally lifted from Scalebound. The whole like train your dragon thing, customizable dragon you can level up, and they're adding like a bunch of new features to the flying system, so it like it's less like swimming in the air. And I was thinking, man, this literally looks like Scalebound. So maybe Xbox will get Scalebound in some form one day if the Activision deal closes, but that's kind of funny.
TB has been a member for 7 months. Says beans, the musical fruit. The more Jez eats, the more he toots. You guys are ace. The other John Christ says Monday is why I can catch you live for the first time. Yeah, we normally don't do shows on Monday. So anybody who's here for the first time live, hello. Make sure you say something in chat. You don't need to lurk, but hey, if you lurk, all more power to you, because I usually lurk on shows I watch. I don't really say anything. Just do us a big favor and hit that like button, because that is really important. Drawn TJ says, "Hey guys, question: who do you think gets Ubisoft? I can see Sony getting them, or do you think they are trying to get their stocks up? Do you think Microsoft gets them after the Activision deal, or no?" Okay, so this is a topic, so screw it. Let's just get into it, Jez. Right?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Came out earlier this week. Report from Bloomberg, and then I think expounded upon by Kotaku or whatever. But basically, that there are some private equity firms exploring potential buyout of Ubisoft. Now, it's not really confirmed whether or not like Guillermo or however you say his last name, if they're actually willing to sell, but it definitely seems like parts of Ubisoft want out. And that should be no surprise because Ubisoft hasn't been doing the greatest recently. I think their stock price is down, as we know. If you got a video game company, this is the time to sell, because you're probably valued at the highest you're ever going to be, with everything that's, you got Embracer buying everybody. You got Microsoft acquiring all these companies recently, Activision Blizzard. Sony's out here buying stuff. So Tencent's always on the lookout, right? So yeah, it came up that Ubisoft was potentially a buyout interest. No mention of Sony or Microsoft, just a couple private equity firms. So of course, I got DMs about it. I'm sure you were asked questions about it. So what do you think? Ubisoft, the target for Xbox, for PlayStation? Would you want Xbox to acquire Ubisoft? What are your thoughts on all this?
I think anyone listening to this show over the last 6 months or more knows damn well that I don't want Microsoft to waste its money on Ubisoft. Ubisoft has a lot of great IP, but as a company, they've become creatively bankrupt. Like a lot of their games just copy and paste of the last game. They've completely run out of ideas. They basically borrow from other genres while they sort of flounder trying to figure out how to justify their existence, frankly. Like, even like Assassin's Creed Origins, which is a really great game, they literally just co-opted The Witcher 3. And let's just be completely honest. And yeah, Ubisoft pioneered a lot of this open world gameplay with the horse in Assassin's Creed 1 and stuff like that. But that was a long ass time ago. But Ubisoft has not innovated for the longest time. And it's really starting to grind down all of their brands, grind down their company in general. And it's I have no idea why they can't seem to do any innovation or come up with any original ideas. It's really strange. But anyway, or take any risks, When's the last time Ubisoft made a risky game? Like, I can't even remember.
I mean, I don't know. They got 7 free-to-play games in development or something. They got like X-Defiant, which is like a Call of Duty shooter. They just announced Project Q. They got like Division Heartlands. They got a whole bunch of sort of free-to-play / Battle Royale games in development alongside their bigger, franchises. But the report also said that the next Assassin's Creed, the next Far Cry, and the next, I forget what the other franchise was, are longer off, or ways off, I guess. So
yeah,
we all knew Jez was not going to be a fan of Ubisoft buyout. So,
but like, I don't know. I think the fact that someone's looking to buy them out is kind of like some companies have sort of sussed that, yeah, they've got a lot of IP that's recognizable, like Splinter Cell and stuff like that. And there probably is some potential that they could make something out of their properties, because some of their properties are recognizable, like Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. And they're just not being, they're not really doing anything really exciting with them anymore. So maybe someone thinks like we can do a better job of this, and Ubisoft can't seem to hire the right people that can build their company creatively or whatever. I mean, Ubisoft had its own scandal too, like Blizzard-esque, that a lot of people have forgotten about now, and they cleaned house, and I don't know, they've just sort of become boring. I don't know. I mean, they're always kind of boring, but now they're like hyper boring in an age where you can't really be boring anymore. So it's no wonder they're looking to exit. I mean, the industries in general are always talking about this thing called the Great Resignation. I don't know if you've heard of this, Rand. Have you
Yeah,
heard of the
I've heard of
Great
it
Resignation?
I've heard of it in relation to Ubisoft.
Yeah, like even Microsoft's going through it. Like after the pandemic, a load of people are reevaluating their careers, what they want to do, and changing their lives and changing their lifestyles and stuff like that. And like people are, it's affecting Microsoft too, and pretty much all tech companies where that people are just like leaving, joining other companies. Amazon as well. They've got this whole Great Resignation thing as well. And I read an article about Google not being able to retain anyone, and because people, they're changing their priorities in a world where everything's screwed up. And I'm sure that's true of people like the CEO of Ubisoft and the CEOs of Twitter and the boards and stuff. And they're just like, well, we're done with this now. Let's try something else and try something new. So you're seeing the companies resigning as well. And they're all trying to exit and get out because the world's in chaos right now. And they think like, now's the time to exit and maybe build a bunker or something. So Ubisoft ain't going to be the last. Like, I would not be surprised if we see Take-Two eventually go up for sale, and some companies try and make money out of this as well, because it feels like there's a lot of uncertainty and chaos in the world right now, and for companies that don't want to deal with the uncertainty and the chaos and the upheaval, they'd probably rather just exit, and that's where we're seeing like companies like Activision exit, and we're seeing Ubisoft probably exit and stuff like that, because there is so much chaos and they don't know how to navigate it. Technology moves so damn fast, like it's hard to keep up with that sort of stuff. And because the Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo are becoming increasingly sort of platform oriented, and they're sort of decreasingly looking at third-party support to grow their platforms, like they've got to be thinking like, EA blamed Halo Infinite for the failure of Battlefield 2042. So like, and that's only going to get worse. If first parties are investing increasingly in content that they build themselves, they're increasing competition from third parties as well. And Microsoft really took the gloves off and put the gas on that, and Sony as well, I guess, where they were like, yeah, we can't rely on third parties to grow our platforms anymore. We're going to have to sort of go all in, because, they've got big tech companies consolidating and sort of creating this sort of scenario where they have to work harder to compete and acquire users. And mobile is a part of that upset and that upheaval. So it's not surprising, but,
No.
with chaos comes opportunity. And, we've seen some smaller publishers do really well, like Devolver Digital, for example. And they're finding that in the niche left by, as EA and Ubisoft chase service games, Devolver Digital have just come in like, well, we're gonna support people who don't want service games, and they're making a lot of good money doing it, hopefully. So it's an interesting time in the gaming industry, and I don't think this is the last we're going to see of acquisitions and shit.
There were rumors last year that Ubisoft was silently shopping themselves around.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise to see this come out. I think some people are surprised that Microsoft and Sony aren't mentioned, but I'm not surprised, because I think Microsoft will do their due diligence and look at everything that Ubisoft has to offer, look at the books or whatever, see what they're worth. But I don't think Microsoft or Sony, for that matter, want to try to integrate 20,000 employees across like 42 worldwide studios.
No.
And
it sounds like a nightmare. I mean, Ubisoft's already one of the companies with the most overheads, and they're gonna be like they're gonna
Ubisoft
be
is
inheriting all
also,
of those overheads, and also the overheads from having to integrate them.
you know how most companies use outsourcing for their games, right? To
Yeah.
help out. Ubisoft is one of the few companies that don't. It's mostly all done in house, and it's one of the reasons why they have 42 studios. So I think if a private equity firm gets them, there's probably going to be like massive layoffs and restructuring. Which is why I don't think Xbox or PlayStation is interested in doing any of that, and probably why you don't see their names mentioned as interested parties. You know,
Yeah.
so I know people love to go out there and be like, Ubisoft is next, PlayStation and Xbox, but I honestly don't think either one of them has any legitimate interest in buying
Well,
Ubisoft.
if it's an equity firm, you have to presume that the goal is not to make a games company. The goal is money. And like someone in chat, Lanzo86 said, could Microsoft buy one studio from them? And that's possibly one route the equity firm could take, is literally just to carve up the studios and IP and just sell it all for profit.
Yeah, I
You
guess
know?
that's. But then you'd also sell the IPs. What's because the studio, like, what good is the Assassin's Creed studio without Assassin's Creed? Essentially, right?
Well, one of the well, you mentioned an interesting point that they do a lot of their stuff in house and they don't use support studios. One of the issues some of the big studios have got right now is that they don't have access to support studios because with the pandemic, support studios that are set up to build games remotely, they became in massive demand, and because they're in massive demand, games like Halo and and Cyberpunk or whatever, they couldn't get access to those developers who could help them grow their games and stuff like that. So maybe there's a world where a lot of those studios become support studios, and that's where the business and the profit ends up being, is supporting the main publisher platforms and maybe selling those studios on. Like we talked about last podcast how we see certain affinity eventually joining Xbox because they are basically Halo's core support studio. They've also been supporting Perfect Dark, from what I understand, and they've also obviously been supporting Gears of War in the past, I believe. So that's one studio that makes a lot of sense to join as support, and maybe the equity firms just be like, maybe we can sell some of these teams to become support studios. Like some of Ubisoft's teams have already become support studios anyway. Like I think Red Lynx, who make the Trials games, they've been doing a lot of support recently, if I remember right. So there's a lot of opportunity there for the studio, I guess, from a support perspective. But this is exactly why I wouldn't want Xbox or any of the platform holders to buy them. If I was a Sony fan, I was looking at PlayStation dropping however many billions on Ubisoft, I'd be thinking, no, that's not a good idea. Because they have no ideas. They have no creative. They have no future. I feel like Ubisoft. That's what would really worry me about acquiring Ubisoft as a platform holder. But there is value there in the studio. Obviously, they've got a lot of talented devs, and whatever's stopping them from being creative, whether it's like people high up and they're like, don't do this, that's too risky, or whatever. Whatever's stopping them be creative, maybe that'll go away when they're acquired and they can find their footing. But they just haven't been creative, and they're not compelling purchase for me as a platform holder. But I don't know, maybe Microsoft and Sony know something that I don't. I'm sure
Yeah.
they do on that level.
I mean, I guess we'll find out. I can definitely see Ubisoft being sold off in the near future. So, question would be, who is going to get them, and what will they do with them once they have them? So, Gold Shell says console port has a great Xbox UI. It feels great. I don't think I've seen that one. Drawn to TJ says, when is the first
console port is the Warcraft add-on that lets you play with the controller.
okay. John TJ says, when is the first expansion comes out for Forza Horizon 5? Yeah, I think me and you had talked about this, not during the podcast, but we were just talking about stuff. So normally the expansions for Forza Horizon, usually one comes out in like March time. Like at this point last year, or this point in 2019, I think it was Treasure Island was released for Forza Horizon 4, and then Lego Speedway was released during the right after the Xbox Summer Showcase in 2019. So we're already basically May. There isn't a Forza Horizon expansion yet. I would think the first announcement for it will be at the Summer Showcase. Probably run a trailer of some kind. I wouldn't be surprised if it shadow drops around that day either. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Maybe the pandemic has sort of shifted release dates. Normally they would aim for like right after release and then halfway during the year, but then maybe it's kind of shifted and it's like the first one will be in June and then the second one will be basically end of the year or maybe even next year. But yeah, I expect to see an announcement at the Summer Showcase.
We talked earlier about the Great Resignation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I know Microsoft is trying to do is sort of be really anti-crunch. They're trying really hard to avoid crunch or any accusation of crunch. So that might be a factor as well. Like, just to speculate, I have no idea if that's the case or not. But if there's anyone at Microsoft that wants to clarify the crunch culture at Microsoft or the lack thereof, please get in touch.
Well, I mean, there was the little note when we talk about Halo Infinite about priority zero, about them putting the health of their team first. Because there's been a lot of people aren't happy with Halo Infinite Season 2's roadmap.
No, they're not.
But they are. 343 has come out and said our team's health is first and foremost, and we're not crunching. So yeah. Supernova says, "Hello, everyone. Jez, after you climbed up the mountain, did you live the moment like a Death Stranding game? Shall we consider your new name Jez Porter Bridges?"
Oh man. Well, I got a confession. I did absolutely zero climbing. There's a train. There's a train that goes up there.
A train? Okay.
There's a train, yeah. I took a train to the top of Germany. You really think I'm healthy enough to climb that? Seriously? But yeah. It's all good.
Chiefman says, "I'm glad Activision Blizzard became available before Ubisoft. Activision Blizzard actually has games worth saving and talent on hand. Sorry, not sorry." Right. This question came up on Xbox Era this past week because I think Nick was like he'd rather have Ubisoft than Activision or whatever, something like that. Nick is weird when it comes to some of these things, right?
Nick, if you're listening, that is the worst take ever.
But I was like, as a business, if I'm Xbox, if I'm Microsoft, like Activision Blizzard makes a million times more sense than Ubisoft does. Right?
Oh yeah.
You got Blizzard and everything they're doing on the PC side, which Xbox we've heard and we know that Xbox views PC as a big growth opportunity, big growth market. Yes. And you have a premier, maybe the premier PC developer, even though they've fallen on hard times and they aren't what they once were, but you're super excited about their future. And there's a possibility they can regain their stature as number one PC developer, and that will help Xbox, realize their goals in the PC space when you have Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2 and the survival game that eventually will come out, and Diablo Immortal and all the other games that Diablo will make in the coming years, right? And then you have King, which nobody talks about because nobody cares about mobile gaming here. Like, I'm not going to talk about it. Jez isn't going to talk about it. Nobody in chat's going to talk about it because none of us play Candy Crush or any of the games that King makes. But we knew Microsoft was especially keen on entering the mobile market. It's really hard, right? They tried it with some games. Those games failed. They didn't work. And that, like, mobile is a pillar. I mean, mobile makes more money than consoles anyways. Like, you look at the mobile games, like, mobile makes way more money.
Margins.
Better margins. Like, so you get King, you get a mobile presence. They're in countries that Xbox isn't in. It makes all the business sense in the world. But before you even add on Activision and Call of Duty and what it does and the money it brings in and microtransactions and everything like that and all the studios that they have. So to me, it's like when you compare them, yeah, sure, Activision Blizzard's $70 billion. And Ubisoft would have been, maybe 10, 12, maybe at a high point 15. but you get so much more with Activision Blizzard for the money than you do with Ubisoft. So if I were Microsoft and they both were available at the same time, I would have chosen Activision Blizzard every single time because they give you more. So,
yeah. And I'm so excited about the future of Blizzard. I've become addicted to Hearthstone.
oh, geez.
That's how bad it is. I'm a mobile gamer now, man. How do you feel about that?
You've been playing Hearthstone, whatever. I wonder if they'll put that on Xbox once the deal goes through as well.
I don't think so, because Gwent was a massive flop on Xbox and console. They cancelled the console version of Gwent completely. Like you can't get it anymore on the PlayStation or Xbox. But man, I think they should bring Hearthstone to Nintendo Switch at the very least. If it's not there already. It really should be there. I mean, it makes total sense on the Switch because the Switch has a touchscreen, right?
Yes.
So
I think so.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. I've never used that. Anytime I've used my Switch, it's just been in a docked mode. So I don't know. Does it have a touchscreen? I don't even know because I've never used it that way.
And it's the least mobile game ever.
Yes. You've been demonetized. Says, are you gents going to collab with the Defining Duke after Xbox E3? Big fan of both podcasts as well as the Iron Lords podcast. Yeah, I mean,
I'll be down for that.
Yeah, I'm sure people will want to do some collabs, and if Maddie or Cognito hits us up and was like, "Hey, come on the show," I mean, we did Xbox 4 with them. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, doing a show with Cognito and Maddie, Defining Duke, is always a great time. So. Metal Morbo says, hopefully Xbox PC and Battle.net launcher merge. Radiant Blade, who's been a member for 12 months, says, wait, why are you guys on today? What happened? This is all strange. Anyway, I'm going to play some Halo Infinite PvP. When is the new stuff coming for? Yes, it is odd. We are here on a Monday. We didn't want to actually skip because Jez was on vacation looking for Xbox news up in the snowy mountains. And we will still be doing a show later in the week. Hopefully there'll be more stuff to talk about. But we didn't feel right canceling 2 shows in a month. So we're here. And we're glad everybody's here as well. So if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button. We really appreciate it. The Intern of War says, hey crew, I wanted to ask a question that isn't new. But did we give too much credit for Halo Infinite to 343 at first? If re-reviewed, would you still like it as much as you did before? All right, well, that's a good segue to talk about Halo Infinite. Let's just directly answer this question, Jez. If you were to re-review Halo, well, you didn't review Halo in the first place.
No, I didn't.
I will mention, for posterity effect, that when Jez was playing through the campaign of Halo Infinite, he was loving it. Don't ever let him say that he wasn't enjoying it. That is not true. Was loving it.
No, I did enjoy it. But don't say I didn't criticize the story.
Oh, no, I'm not saying you didn't criticize it, but let's be honest here, Jez.
You remember the review score I gave it? You beat that
game and, you said, well, here's the thing. So Jez will sometimes be like, this is what I would give the game, but I'm not going to say it, and I'm not going to give it this because people will yell at me, so this is what I'm really going to give it. Right? He does this all the time. I think originally you said you would have given Halo Infinite a 5 out of 10.
Well, it's easy when I'm not reviewing it, right?
Yeah, well, okay, but I know people here have been listening to the show for a long time. Like, I know OBM's in chat. I recall how happy you were when you were playing the multiplayer for the first time, how in love you were with the multiplayer. And then...
You're not talking about that.
What? I mean, it's the whole package.
That I like the multiplayer, but the thing is, right? That was the beta,
Oh, okay.
And I think there is an element when you play in a beta. It's like, yeah, this is a good basis for growth, but let's see what happens in the finished product, right? And I think that's how Halo reviewed in general, because people were like, this is a live service. We'll review it based on the initial experience. And I think the initial experience was pretty damn good. I don't think anyone can deny that when the game first came out, everyone was being really positive about it. But the problem is, when you play in the same map non-stop, because there's only 2 maps, it starts getting a bit boring.
Hmm.
And I'm someone who primarily plays big team battle because I feel like arena exposes you too much to mouse and keyboard players. At least in arena, it's a little bit more chaotic. So, you know, I've been in maps in arena where it's like there's one person on the enemy team has mouse and keyboard, and they have like 50% more kills than everyone else. Now, I'm sure like you can adapt to play against people like that, but I never played Halo that way, where it was sort of like I was forced to play against people with a mouse and keyboard. So I just refused. I didn't play Arena at all. So then I was playing Big Team Battle, which only has 2 maps. And man, I got bored really quickly with those 2 maps. So I went from really enjoying it to being really bored with it really damn quickly. And then there was loads of additional issues with the game, like server problems, and then, you know, problems with the progression not feeling worthwhile at all. And I didn't engage with the progression whatsoever because I just don't care about getting a different colored Spartan. I don't really care, you know. Like in Overwatch, when you get a new skin, it's like a completely new character. You know, it's like completely different design. But in Halo, it's like meh. I don't really care about any of this stuff. It all looks kind of lame. You know, I'm not really interested in that. And you know, so yeah, I did enjoy it initially, but I dropped off pretty quickly. But the same sort of happened with the campaign. You know, I enjoyed the campaign, and the opening was great. And then in the open world, I was really enjoying that too. But it's still only one biome. So by the end of it, I was really bored of the one biome that you get. And I was bored with the gameplay loop of unlocking the bases and then, you know, whatever. And then by the end, the sort of layered boredom from the one biome layered on top of the very bad story delivery, which honestly was bad. I there was some great characters, like I can't remember his name now, but the Atriox replacement. What's his name, dude?
I forget his name too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, forgetting his name's probably not great for the game's memorability. But I really loved the war chief guy. I thought his character was really well done. But the story delivery and some parts of the story that happened off screen to try and bridge it with Halo 5, I thought that was a cop out and showed a lack of conviction. You know, they're trying to act like Halo 5 didn't happen. Like these huge, gigantic robots, the Guardians, just didn't matter. They were non-factor. There was like one tiny little cutscene which talked about something one of the Guardians did, and I just thought this is just really weak. Oh yeah, his name's Escharum. Yeah, I didn't remember his name because it's so alien. He's just like Escharum. Like that is hard to remember, I guess. But I thought Escharum was great, but the way they bridged the story of Halo 5 was just awful. And then some of the Cortana stuff was also awful, I thought. So I did land on a score at the end. I thought I would have given the campaign 7 out of 10 by the end. And I was kind of mind blown that so many people had given it like 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. Because for me, it was not a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 experience. But then again, I'm not a big Halo fan. So, you know, if, I don't know, say in chat, I'm going to put a poll up in a minute. With some score ranges. What would you give Halo as a full package right now? What would you give it out of 10? And we're talking about the story. We're talking about.
I mean, I gave it an 8.5 at launch.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So I mean, or are you saying do you want me to re-review it now? Like, because I think there's. Well, he was like, well, if you re-reviewed it, would you still like it as much as you did before? Probably. I mean, I don't really see me liking it less than I did. In fact, when the co-op does come out, I probably will even like the campaign more, simply because I think it'll be even more fun to play with your friends. So like, the question is, like, you have the game at launch, and it's this experience, and now that launch is over and you're into the post-launch content, how is the post-launch content? Like, what would you rate post-launch content? And I'd probably give it an F, a D, maybe at most a C-, right? But then again, like, I'm not. Okay, so let me set up the context. They released the Halo Infinite Season 2 roadmap, and people aren't happy because instead of it being 3 months, it's 6 months, just like Season 1. So originally, when they announced season 1. It was supposed to be 3 months, but then they launched the game and they said, okay, season 1's going to be 6 months because we need the extra time to, figure stuff out. And it's the only one that's going to be 6 months. And then it came out that season 2 was going to only have 2 maps, one arena map and one big team battle map. And that it was going to have 3 new modes. King of the Hill, which has existed in Halo forever, but now it's like we got King of the Hill mode. Woo. You got Land Grab, and you got a Last Spartan Standing, which is a free-for-all survival game that people are calling Baby Battle Royale. I personally don't think it's a Battle Royale game because 12 people, each person has 5 respawns, and that doesn't seem Battle Royale to me. I think the reason people think it is because of the closing circle. And then you get stuff like the co-op campaign is coming at the end of August. Mission Select is finally coming. Yay! It took them 9 months or 10 months to do campaign Mission Select, which is odd. And then, and then they said, season 3 starts in like November, and there's going to be a beta for Forge. So people were like, when originally that information came out, people were like, oh, 2 maps, that's not great. Like, really? Because I'm kind of sick of the current maps. But like, okay, it's just only going to be 3 months. I just got to weather the 3 months and then there'll be new content. But then it was like, no, it's 6 months. And it's like, okay, so now for a full year of post-launch content, you only gave people 2 months and a bunch of modes that already existed in Halo previously. So a lot of fans are upset. I would call Halo's post-launch support so far a disappointment. But, as I've said before, my tastes lean more towards Battle Royale. That is my multiplayer of choice these days. And I am not coming back to Halo multiplayer until Certain Affinity's Battle Royale Warzone-ish mode comes out. And we talked about it, or you essentially leaked it on this podcast last week. I don't know if you saw all the articles, Jez, but once again, Jez Corden's Xbox 2 podcast. I even saw Paul Tassi from Forbes say, in a recent interview, Jez Corden said, I didn't know that the Xbox 2 podcast is a weekly interview of Jez Corden, but apparently apparently that's what Paul Tassi said in his article. So I feel seen. You know what I mean? Like either way. So your information went viral. It was up on Gaming Leaks. It was up on the Halo Reddit. Dr. Disrespect was talking about it on his stream. Tim the Tatman was talking about it on his stream. Do you have any more information regarding Battle Royale? Because you just said you had some more and you were going to talk about in the show. Have you gotten anything more?
I do have some more information. Some of this is out there. Like there's a bunch of like dedicated Halo fans who are like, they're data mining to get some of this stuff. So a lot of it is out there, and it's out there because Microsoft put it out there. Frankly, if you know where to look for it. So what I've heard, and this is what they're testing. They're testing a sort of PvP VE kind of thing. There's going to be sort of like, it is not a traditional battle royale. It's not going to be like a complete copy clone of PUBG, for example. It's not going to be like exactly a one-to-one clone. It's going to be like, I've heard it's duos and trios. So like that's like Apex Legend, right? Where you have
Apex Legends is 3. Yeah, trios.
So I believe what they're testing right now is duos and trios. And it's sort of like a map. It's a big map that sort of like, it has shrinking circles, like a Battle Royale. And it sort of forces you to move around the map. And it does like, there's like different objectives and stuff like that. Like you'll be able to catch forward operating bases, for example. And you'll be able to defend them. And I have no idea how that plays into the whole like shrinking arena stuff. But also, it was interesting because earlier, Rand, you said you didn't consider having respawn tickets to be Battle Royale. Well, so I've heard is that it does have respawn tickets as well. So, and also you'd be able to earn more on the map as you play. So there's a sort of like, there is going to be some sort of respawn revive mechanic, I believe. But also there's like also tickets that let you have like so many respawns. I have no idea how many, but there is like going to be respawn mechanics in there as well. So, but this is all stuff that they're testing. So it could change towards launch. And there's like a bunch of other aspects to it. A lot of it is like hard to lock down in terms of like this is definitively how it's going to be. Some of it could be leftover code, for example, and features that aren't going to be implemented. So it's sort of like hard to definitively leak some of this stuff, which is why I haven't put it in an article and why I'm discussing it here as rumors to take with a pinch of salt, because I don't know for sure if some of these features are going to make it into the full game. Like the truth teller says, is it more of a survival mode? It does sound a bit more survivally than a traditional battle royale, maybe. For example, I have no idea how it's gonna play when it's finalized or when it goes into beta or whatever. Presumably they are going to do a beta for it, because it does sound like Microsoft themselves are 100% sure about how they're gonna make this mode work. But it has been in development for 2 years. That much I know. And one of the aspects in the design brief, it talks about bringing in people who aren't traditional Halo fans, like people they're new to Halo. So that to me says they're looking for the battle royale crowd. They're looking to pull in people like, influencers like Tim the Tatman and Dr. Disrespect. And the fact that they're all talking about it after I leaked it, that to me says that is exactly the effect they want to have. They want people to talk about it as a battle royale, but they also don't want to be a complete clone of what's already out there, because why would you do that? So yeah, it's hard to lock down some of that stuff, but it does sound interesting what they're trying to do with it. And also just to add, some of the mechanics from Halo Infinite single player is gonna be in there. So like like Halo had those side quests where it was like go here and clear a bunch of mobs, or go here and kill a high value target, for example. Like
Yeah.
the evolve, they're going to be in this mode as well, like as a sort of evolving objective thing. And I think you win by accruing points and also killing everyone else and stuff like that. So, but I don't know for sure if that's how it's going to play. So take some of this with a pinch of salt.
That sounds like Warzone, because Warzone was based on that.
Yeah. So it is the way it's often described amongst people who know about it is that it's Warzone crossed with Battle Royale. So like high value targets, clearing groups of mobs, killing players, spawning vehicles at forward operating bases that you've captured, respawn tickets, and all that kind of stuff. That's how it's going to work. As far as I know, that's what they're testing. So yeah, I mean, you've said yourself that you're not interested until they start bringing some of these kind of stuff back into it. Does that sound compelling to you with the PvE stuff? Because like I say, I'm not a Halo fan.
I mean,
so
I'd have to play it,
super
but like like I'd have to play it to see. But immediately, I'm not really happy with multiple respawns. I wouldn't necessarily be happy with. To win, it doesn't. You're not like necessarily the last person to survive, but like you need the most points. Like
Yeah.
so, like I would have to go out and kill AI. So I guess this is like Halo's version of a battle royale. Like they're Halo fight it, right?
Yeah.
But I do wonder. I do wonder how other people would feel about it. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. About it. We got a question in the super chat about it from Hey Blinken. Does Halo Infinite Season 2 Extended change the release date plans for Halo Battle Royale? Season 3 begins November 8th. Do you think we may see it then? Because as part of your original leak, you said that you heard it was targeting Season 3 or potentially Season 4. Now with Season 2 being 6 months and basically ending at like the 1 year anniversary, do you know if it's like, do you have a better idea of like what season it's targeting now, or still just Season 3 or Season 4, but you don't really know for sure?
It's really hard to sort of lock that down because of the way, it's sort of vaguely targeting Season 3, Season 4, but also I've sort of got like some of the milestones that they were trying to aim for. And that looked like 2022, at the end of 22 was that milestone. But I don't think they're. I also think there's like no hard deadline on it. So I think like if it's not ready, they're not going to ship it until possibly season 4, which is probably why they haven't fully announced it yet. Or it could be just they want to save it for E3 because it's a big deal. You know, it's a big mode and a big ambitious mode that's been in development for a couple of years at this point. So this could be the sort of thing they announce at E3, or they're not E3 or whatever they want to call it. So I think the earliest you can expect it is season 3. You know, because in their graphic they did say it would have new modes, but I would have thought they would have teased it a little bit more strongly than that, considering the fact that it's basically leaked already, and Microsoft leaked it themselves through their APIs or whatever. So it's sort of like, I don't know.
Let me ask you this question: assuming it's ready, do you want to launch it in season 3 at the beginning of season 3 as a 1-year relaunch of the game, soft relaunch of the game, with Starfield just releasing and presumably Modern Warfare 2 also coming out around the same time? Would it be beneficial to avoid those games and maybe launch sometime like season 4 in March of 2023? Instead of trying to compete for airspace alongside a Modern Warfare or a new Call of Duty that everybody's looking forward to because it's a sequel to 2019, and a brand new Todd Howard IP that is going to be, I think, absolutely massive. If you're Microsoft and it's ready, do you risk it? Because, this seems to be sort of like, your next best chance of getting new people into the franchise. You got a 10-year plan, and right now people aren't really feeling the greatest about the plan because they're not releasing a lot of content. And do you know why they're not releasing a lot of content? Have you heard the reasons why? We saw some report from Jason Schreier, or a tweet from Chris Raygun, who's on Con Moriarty's podcast, who talked about one of the reasons why the game's in the state it is because for half of the development, they were an Overwatch clone, which I knew to be true. But Jason Schreier came out and said that, like, while they prototyped hero-based modes and stuff, that it wasn't like half the development, and it certainly wasn't like half the budget. That was being exaggerated. So, what can you say about those things?
Yeah, I mean, when Chris Raygun put his tweet out, I think the words he used was a significant amount of budget. I had 2 people from 343 hit me up saying this is not true. It wasn't a significant amount of budget. It was like prototypes that were being tested, and it was sort of like scrapped pretty early on. It was never meant to replace the core Halo gameplay or whatever. It was almost like it was just sort of, it kind of reminded me of how Gears 5 threw like everything in the kitchen sink at the game. Like they had like the Left 4 Dead mode, they had the Horde mode, and they had like the main mode, and they had the casual mode, So it kind of felt escape mode, yeah. So like they were throwing everything they had in the kitchen sink to sort of make the game unique and fresh and whatever. And maybe it works, maybe it didn't, and they decided that it didn't work for Halo, which I think is fair enough, and it's probably a good thing that they made that decision if it wasn't working. Personally, I would much prefer the hero mode over the Battle Royale mode, but I'm maybe the minority there. I think it would have been cool to have like a stealth guy who's like the Arbiter or whatever, and I could see that working really well, actually, like a heavy with like some of Halo's heavy weapons. But for whatever reason, they didn't flesh it out, and it didn't happen. But that's not why the game's in the state it is. I heard the reason the game's in the state it is was because it was originally being developed on the Halo 5's engine. And 2 years before the launch window, they realized that Halo 5's engine was not going to be able to let them scale the game in the way they want to scale it. So they basically rewrote the whole engine, or rewrote a lot of the code that was based on Halo 5's engine, and that created a huge mess.
Well, isn't that the Slipspace engine, or is that something different?
I'm not 100% sure how that worked. So like they had the Slipspace engine, but a lot of it was based on Halo 5 code, I believe, and they wanted to retrofit that code to upgrade it to make the game more scalable. And I've heard that's the reason development was a mess because this new engine they made was not ready fast enough for developing the game at a crucial time where they need to develop it or whatever. So that's what I heard. Don't know how true it is. I haven't put it in an article, but I heard that the engine was a blame for a lot of it. It sounds like it was a lot of things, a lot of different things, factors going wrong. Obviously, COVID didn't help. I heard that COVID dropped right in the middle of a crucial part of development, which requires a lot of collaboration. And because 343 and Microsoft was not set up for remote game development at the time, that hurt the game's milestones, which had a cascading effect on other milestones and stuff like that. And it's like Darnell Hill in chat says, I like leaks, but some of the stuff gets twisted. And it's true. Some of the stuff does get twisted. And you can never get a full picture of things without being a fly on the wall and hearing from all the different people on the team. And, maybe some people have a different perspective. Maybe they think the engine wasn't to blame. Maybe they blame a different team or different aspect of the game's development, So you always have to take these things with a pinch of salt, because the game development is complicated, especially when you're making a game as big as Halo, big as as much as that was at stake for Halo. They were trying to desperately build up Xbox again, and Halo's like the tip of the spear with that, and probably line it up with the TV show and trying to build up this sort of multimedia franchise as big as Halo. It's a really complicated process, and there's a lot of cogwheels going on. So and people, I really do feel like the industry downplays how much the pandemic affected development because they don't want to spook their shareholders and be like, yeah, the next 2 years of game development is going to be a shit show because of the pandemic really affecting development, So that's the state of Halo right now. And I kind of feel like, I think Halo will get there eventually. There's a lot of games that launch really bad and then they got better over time, and they hit a sort of critical mass where the dev teams gets into a flow and they've got the right employees they need and they've got the right tools and the right engine in place and the right code and stuff like that. I feel like that is, they'll get there eventually, and Halo fans will eventually get the game they want and what they deserve, but it's, I think it's going to be slow, I think season 3 is 6 months out or whatever after season 2, which drops in May, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's May for season 2. But yeah, I want them to bring back the Overwatch mode, man.
Of course you would, because
you love
Overwatch.
Mode.
So
it'd be cool, man. I could play like the Arbiter or a robot or something, or a heavy, or one of the different characters from the game. Maybe they bring some of the dudes from, because Halo Wars 2 had a bunch of heroes as well. I want to play Yip Yap the Destroyer, man, in an Overwatch clone of Halo. That'd be so sick. That is way more compelling to me than Battle Royale with Warzone. So I don't know, but I know hero shooters are kind of they've lost their luster a bit, and maybe there's only room in the industry for one of them right now. But I don't know.
It'd be interesting to see fans' reactions to Halo multiplayer as a hero shooter. That would have been something to see, because I can imagine a bunch of Halo fans freaking out. I'm
gonna write an article this week saying I wish Halo Infinite was a hero shooter, to see how pissed off people get. I know everyone here think it's funny and know that I'm trolling, but the wider Halo fan base will be like, "Oh my god, what's this idiot talking about?" That'd be really funny, or maybe not funny. I don't know. Maybe I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But.
John TJ says, I'm glad Xbox is getting Activision so we can get a Vigilante 9 and a new Blur racing game and a new prototype. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're probably not getting any of those. So
I don't know. I could see prototype coming back.
I mean, maybe, but definitely not Blur. Microsoft has Motorsport and Horizon. I don't think they're interested in a third racing franchise. So,
what was Blur's hook? What was Blur like? I never.
Blur was kind of like a car combat game ish. You would it's kind of like Mario Kart, but realistic. You'd have the cars and you pick up the power ups. You'd race around and then use the power ups. It was, and then Activision shut down Bazaar, and a lot of the people from Bazaar went and formed Playground Games. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Maybe they can do a Blur mode. Maybe Activision owns a patent on it.
Maybe that's what they need to do for Forza Horizon 6, is has power ups that you can use, right?
I mean, that sounds more interesting to me. Man, I should just be Microsoft's game designer.
You
Like
should.
Halo would just be not battle royale. It'd be a hero shooter, and it wouldn't bother having a campaign because no one cares about Halo's story, right? And we'd also have, I don't know, Forza Kart Racer instead of Forza Horizon. What else would we have? We'd have Gears of War having Halo's budget.
Mm.
You know, I'd be great, right? Everyone agrees, right? No?
Yeah. ZFG Gaming says, thanks for all you do, Rand and Jez. Love your work. Appreciate it. J Primo says, Rand is a shill. Yeah, I said that. Oh no. What am I shilling for today? You don't have to tell me, J Primo, what I'm shilling for.
I'm telling you what I'm shilling for. Manscaped.
Yeah.
Get 20% off with code XB2 at manscaped.com. Manscaped.
Let's see what else we got here. Gold Shill says Zertal, Kerrigan, Lich King, and Killer Instinct.
Oh, dude, that'd be so sick. Lich King and Killer Instinct. Oh wow, that's a dream. I can't believe you put that out there because now I'm like, oh my god, I need that so bad.
The other John Christ says we can't scream about champion. We can't scream about and champion Anti-Crush and then turn around and complain the content pipe not being a fire hose. I mean, yeah, Xbox 343 was definitely talking about Priority Zero, which is like everything they do is about team health and not wanting to crunch, and that obviously is going to affect content coming to the game. And while it's great to see them not want to overwork their devs,
well, this is the issue they've got. Like, if like, say for example, I'm not saying this is the case, but say for example, one studio does crunch, like Activision, and then Microsoft doesn't do crunch, then Microsoft is not being competitive with Activision. It's kind of sucks, but that's the way it works. It's like if one company's doing something that gets content out there quicker, even if it sucks and burns out the devs, maybe it's like better in the short term, but Microsoft's banking that it's better in the long term to not work your devs to death, and I would hope that is the case. But this is a capitalist system that we're in.
Yeah, well, people's also attention spans are short, so it's like I said in it's like I said in this podcast, man. Nobody cares how the sausage is made; they just want the sausage, and they want it when they want it, right? So a lot of people look at that. I don't view it this way. Let me say this. But a lot of people view 343's Priority Zero as an excuse for there not being any content. I don't view it that way because I know there's like the whole anti-crunch mentality going on at Microsoft where they want their devs to be, it's all about team health first and foremost. And if the content suffers from it, then so be it. But there's a lot of cynical people out there who want their Halo maps and they want to play it nonstop all the time, and they're like, what are you doing over there? Are you just on vacation and not doing work? This seems like an excuse because those people don't care. Those people don't care about dev team health. All they care about is their own enjoyment, and their own enjoyment is being impacted because the devs aren't working as hard as they think they should be working, right? They think they should be crunching to meet their entertainment needs. And Microsoft is out there being like, we're not doing that anymore in any of our studios. So, but then, I mean, that's great. And it's probably helps recruiting and getting people to be hired on where you're like, we're not going to crunch you. But at the same time, that does have consequences. The video game market, especially shooters, is very, very competitive. And if you're not doing something, some other game might be. So if you don't got content for Halo Infinite, those people may just start playing other games and may never come back to your game. So is the trade-off worth it? That's for them to decide. So, but I have seen that floating around on Twitter and stuff like that. So, the Scarecrow says, great to see you both on a Monday podcast, and shout out to Rand for still not having a Patreon, so I have to wake up early in Australia to give him money when you go live. Yeah, I still haven't made a Patreon yet. Maybe I should at some point. Probably should. Radeon Blade says, a free game that people want to talk negative about.
It is true that it's like sort of weird to bitch about the fact that it's free, but I don't know. Microsoft also wants us to play it and invest in it at the same time. But it's kind of like I had this argument with someone in my team recently where they were saying like, "Oh, Overwatch sucks. It hasn't been updated in forever." I'm just like, well, man, I kind of feel like I got my money's worth. I paid $60 and I've got like over 1,000 hours in it. Like, at what point is it okay for a game to finish in 2022? You know, and the dev team's working on Overwatch 2 now instead, and that's why Overwatch 1 hasn't got as much content. And I just kind of feel like, yeah, I mean, it's kind of okay, you know. But I don't know, maybe I got the wrong mentality.
And he also says Halo Infinite is a games as a service. Did anyone here spend $70? No. But yet, you're all quick to complain. All free to play games start off slow and become bigger and more successful over time,
Yeah,
like Apex or Fortnite.
I see both sides of it, you know, because a lot of the sentiment is coming in from Halo 5 as well, which a lot of hardcore Halo fans felt was a disappointment, you know. And they're sort of like Halo Infinite has to be great. I mean, I literally remember us talking about on this show that Halo Infinite has to really, really nail it, or it's going to be a Crackdown 3 situation where it kills the franchise. You know, and I don't think quite we're at that point. It's not a Crackdown 3 situation by any means, but I do think there's a lot of that sentiment is like we're owed something because you guys didn't give us Bungie anymore, and the franchise has been bad since Bungie left. You know,
I think
so
it comes
I don't
down to
know.
is people want to be entertained, and you know the old saying is time is more valuable than money, and people dedicate all their time to these games even though, like you said, Halo Infinite's free, right? And they're not happy because they want to keep on playing the game, but the game is not having any more content, so they complain about it. And yeah, it is free to play. So it's like, do you have even a right to complain for something you didn't pay for? You know? And it's like, well, I'm not. Look, I personally think, like, when Halo Infinite, when 343 came out and said Halo Infinite is going to be a living, breathing platform and it's going to be supported for the next 10 years, if you would have told me that in year one they would have put out just 2 maps and a couple modes that already existed from Halo 1, I would have been like, nah, there'll be more than that. But that's what you got. So to me, I think the first year of Halo Infinite post-launch support is just disappointing. Does that mean it's always going to be disappointing? No. Year 2 could be a million times better, and then nobody will be complaining because they're going to be getting exactly what they want. And it's true. Most live service games do kind of stumble with the first couple seasons because the devs haven't hit their groove. They don't know what people want, or they're not sure of, like certain things, right? So most live service games go through that. But the problem is you're finally releasing your game and you're at season 2. And while it is true Apex Legends and Fortnite and Warzone stumbled, Apex Legends is now in its stride. They're at season 13. They've been through this, you know. Sea of Thieves, yeah, Sea of Thieves first 2 seasons not good, but they're on what, season 8 or season 9 or whatever it is. They got stuff figured out. So things don't exist in a vacuum. Your season 2 is competing against other games who have it all figured out and have their pipeline already with content. So it looks barren in comparison. But like Jez says, I fully expect them to alleviate those problems, figure out what people want, whether or not they answer those engine issues like Jez was talking about. But I think season 2 will be a lot better, and every year after that will be even better or just as good. I say that, but then I thought season 1 would have more content, and it didn't. But I've also mentioned that I'm not coming back until Battle Royale is available. So none of this stuff really matters to me, but I know it matters to a lot of other people. So
I'm not coming back until they add an Overwatch mode.
Of course not. George says, thoughts on Xbox Japan building up? They have a senior producer for the first time since the 360 era. Killer Instinct, Bandai, Kojima, Tabata, who's Final Fantasy 15 studio at E3. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on Japan, Xbox Japan building up?
I'm
Jez?
actually writing an article about this, an editorial feature for the next couple of weeks, like a big article, sort of running through the recent history and all the hires they've been doing, and the potential that's there. Because Xbox is doing really well in Japan, like comparatively to how they have been in the past. There's still a huge amount of barriers to overcome, but it looks like they're serious about overcoming them. And like these hires they've been making, obviously, is the first aspect to that. It's also because Japan's become a more important market. It's the devs, some of the studios over there have really been nailing it lately. There was like a few years where things were a bit bad, like thinking about like Resident Evil 6, that kind of era. And Capcom had a string of flops like Lost Planet 2 and 3, for example. And and then they had like some major success stories with Monster Hunter, and major success story with Resident Evil 2 and stuff like that, and 7 and Village and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I am doing a feature on this soon, but it is kind of exciting, right? As someone who likes Japanese games and also likes Xbox, it's been hard. There's a lot of games that were missing historically.
There was
and they're sort of
there's also a tweet from Matt Smith, Jez, like 5 days ago. He tweeted out that my team at Xbox Publishing here in Japan is growing. We are working with top-class developers on truly groundbreaking product for Xbox. DMs are open, happy to answer any questions. So, he uses the word groundbreaking. So they definitely seem to be, putting more effort into Japan. And we see the numbers come in, and Series X and S are doing pretty well there.
This links back to the Ubisoft discussion, because a lot of the creativity and innovation is coming out of Japan right now. Like Death Stranding, even though like it didn't set the world on fire, that was a creatively risky game to make. Something that didn't focus so much on combat so heavily, or especially not violence and stuff. And it was instead very sort of narratively driven in an open world, in a very unique sort of gameplay format. So that's ultimately what Microsoft's looking for, is unique experiences that it can put into Game Pass and get like attention for. Like Assassin's Creed episode number 1000 is not the innovation that Microsoft really cares about for growing Game Pass and grabbing attention and grabbing headlines. Even though those games do sell well still, and it's kind of like Final Fantasy, like it's almost a brand unto itself, and there are people out there who just buy every single Assassin's Creed because they really like the format. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I think Microsoft, like, they're seeing that a lot of the innovations coming out of Japan, and they're hopefully going to be able to invest in that. And then the knock-on effect of that is that some of the games that historically avoid Xbox hopefully will stop avoiding Xbox, like your Personas and some of the Square Enix JRPGs, like I can't remember what it's called now. The one Miles loves, Legend of Mana.
Yeah, a bunch of RPGs from 1993. Miles was writing an article about, I want these games from 1995 on my console. I was given a bunch of crap for that when I was on Chatterdays.
Yeah.
Jay Primo, he says, "Oh my God, I spent so much with Manscaped."
Manscaped.
See? People love Manscaped, and you will love Manscaped too. Just try out their boxers. Get a lawnmower, code XB2. That is letter X, letter B, and the number 2 at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. So, do it. The other John Christ says, people understand what crunch does to a person. Some people do, and especially the ones who've been through crunch, but I think the majority of people who play video games have no idea what crunch is. And all they want is their video games. They want their entertainment, and they don't care how their entertainment is made. So they don't care that, they essentially want 343 to crunch because they want their content. So... Xbox expansion pass, what's going on, buddy? He says, just saying hello and lending support. Hope you're doing well, Insipid Ghost. Blinken says, what if the Halo Battle Royale main objective is the last man standing, but the points allow you to use the FOB to spend points on weapons, upgraded shields, and grapple shot upgrades? That'd be interesting.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's hard to lock some of this stuff down. but it could be something like that. I do know the points system and capturing stuff is going to feed into how much you can summon like weapons and equipment and vehicles and stuff like that. So like you're incentivized to capture things, I guess. But it's until we see it for sure, it's going to be hard to lock down some of that stuff. So take everything that's out there with a pinch of salt, I would say.
Yeah, Ethan says, any idea why Compulsion wasn't listed as developing their next game on Unreal Engine 5? I don't know what engine they're using for their next game. All we know is what Jez talked about the game, that it was called Project Midnight, right? It's like Louisiana, Gothic, third person.
I think they are using Unreal Engine, you know.
Well,
that kind of rings a bell.
Well, they weren't listed in that Unreal Engine presentation. They weren't listed with the other studios from Xbox who were using Unreal.
The game ain't announced yet though, so maybe that's why. But I don't know. It's
well, technically, In Exile's next game's not announced yet either, but they were there.
That is true. So maybe they're not using it, but I kind of feel like they might be using it because for some reason that rings a bell with me. I don't know if it's because they've hired someone in that position, or I've actually read it in a document somewhere. But that rung a bell. So maybe I think they probably are using Unreal Engine. You know, I'm like 75% sure they are using Unreal Engine, but I could be wrong. So don't quote me on that just yet.
Yeah. Supernova says, Jez, in one of your tweets about first person and a white wall, of course it's close to the PT demo. Did you mean something to tweet or just nothing?
He's talking about the fog emoji.
The fog emoji that you've been using, yeah.
Yeah, that was just because SwiftKey for Android got updated and added the new emotes, and I didn't have that emote before. I just think it looks cool. It looks funny. No, I was not teasing anything. I'm sorry. I thought it's like because I'm going up a mountain. Kind of looks like, you know, head in the clouds. I don't know.
Flame says Xbox needs to open the checkbook with Capcom and get Monster Hunter Stories 2 and Monster Hunter Rise. They're great games and need to be on Xbox.
I'm so confused about those games. Like I don't understand why Capcom went from the success of Monster Hunter World and they just didn't bother putting Rise or Stories on Xbox. That felt so strange to me. It's like, or PlayStation for that matter. It was kind of like, why not? These grow the brand. Like, why wouldn't you do this? And especially like, I don't know, maybe they think because they're both lower fidelity. They were designed for the Switch, so they've got their graphics are a little bit more cartoony than Monster Hunter World, which has sort of more photorealism about it. So maybe they were nervous about doing that. Like maybe they thought, oh, they'll think it's a graphics downgrade or whatever. But you solve that just by explaining it a bit, you know, and saying this was designed for the Switch. You know, that's why it looks the way it does. So I don't know why they've done that. It feels really strange to me that they did that. Hopefully they'll come eventually or whatever. But I think they've just decided not to for whatever reason, and I think it sucks because Monster Hunter Stories would be the perfect xCloud game. It's turn-based, Pokemon-like, which you know, Xbox and PlayStation don't have a Pokemon competitor. And what do? They put their Pokemon clone on the platform that has Pokemon. So like, it's just strange. I don't know.
Charlie Thompson says, "What are the chances we see the Coalition's next game at the showcase in June?"
Pretty high, I would say. I would guess. What do you think? Pretty high?
I guess it depends on when it's coming out. If it's coming out in 2023, then I expect it to show up at the show. If it's not coming out until 2024, then maybe it's not there. You know, there's just something exciting about seeing a new project from the Coalition. Like, I know you're a Gears head, and I know there's a lot of Gears fans out there, and I'm one of them. But I've always thought, man, what could the Coalition do if they weren't sort of chained to all the mechanics of Gears, right?
Yeah.
And my imagination runs wild. You know, I kind of think because I honestly think Coalition is a stalwart of Xbox Game Studios. Like, they held it down for Xbox last generation when, you know, they didn't have the greatest generation, Xbox in general. but the coalition was there. Like, Xbox leaned on them. You know, they did Gears Ultimate, and the next year was Gears 4. And then 3 years later, you had Gears 5, right? You know, you had Gears Pop and Gears Tactics. Like, they leaned heavily on that franchise. And I'm happy that they're giving the franchise some room to breathe, because otherwise Gears 6 would be out this year. It's 2022. Gears was on a 3-year cadence, and it's basically been a 3-year cadence since 2006 when it first came out. So I'm happy that they're given the time to maybe innovate and think of some things that could spice up the Gears formula, but then breaking out and doing something different, whether it's in the Gears world or whether it's a new IP. I'm super excited to see whatever they're doing, you know? Because I think the Coalition are super talented.
They are. I mean, there's a reason, like, Unreal, Epic Games chose them to make that Matrix demo. So, you know, they are super talented, and it's going to be interesting to see what the next game looks like. But we also know very little about it. No idea what it could be. There was the whole Star Wars rumor that they were going to make a Mandalorian game at one point.
Well, they came out and they basically shut that down, so...
Yeah, they shut it down. But yeah, I just hope it's something I want to play, and not like some sort of, I don't know, mobile-looking narrative adventure game. You know, your kind of game.
Oh, yeah. Chinook Guy says, how willing are both From Software and Xbox on making a game together? Maybe bring back Otage. Well, you know, Jez's coworker, Miles Dampier, wrote an article, or said it on a podcast last year, that there was rumors that From Software and Xbox are working on, like, a sci-fi venture, a sci-fi game. But I would imagine at this point, From Software is in probably high demand. They just put out most likely game of the year 2022. Probably the biggest game of the year outside of Modern Warfare, right? Like, when you think about it, Jez, like, what is going to be, like, when you look at, like, what games are the best selling, it's going to be Modern Warfare 2, but then it's probably going to be Elden Ring, right? Is there going to be, maybe Starfield is up there, you know, if you had in, like, the PC sales and stuff, but you're talking about now them joining, like, the big leagues. So they can probably do whatever they want. So do they want to do exclusive development again? You know, with Xbox or PlayStation? Or are they just going to be happy just making a game and putting it on every platform? You know? I don't think they're going to be hurting for money.
Nope.
So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't really see From Software doing an exclusive with the Xbox. Let's see what else we got here.
Never say never, because money talks, but I don't see it either.
Yeah. Okay, we need to talk about Xbox and VGCharts and MPD and everything that has kind of surrounded this whole thing. While you were searching in the mountains for Xbox news, did you see the drama, Jez? Do you understand the drama?
I did see some of the drama, but update us on said drama.
So for the last couple months, VGCharts is a website that kind of estimates console sales. Now, there's a lot of people out there that don't like VGCharts and think their numbers aren't close, so they don't use them for official estimates. Some people use them because it's like the only thing we have, so it's just like a point of reference and stuff like that, right? But lately, for this whole year, basically, VGCharts has had Xbox ahead of PlayStation, which, you know, is not really sat well with PlayStation fans, because, you know, PlayStation was supposed to beat Xbox 2-1, and it doesn't look like that's the case.
Yeah.
So they've been putting out these weekly reports, and they put out a tweet that basically said, "Hey, here's how the Xbox Series X is doing versus the 360 in the same time frame." Right? And it was like something like 13.8 million to something like 9 million, right? The Xbox Series X was doing way better. And Aaron Greenberg, as well as Josh Muncy from Xbox Marketing, retweeted VGCharts' tweet and was like, "Thanks to the Xbox community for buying the consoles. Job's not done. We still got a lot of work ahead of us. You know, blah, blah, blah. Future's bright, etc., etc., etc." And a lot of people were taking his tweet, reading it many different ways. Some people, like myself, would read it as all he's really saying is that it's doing better than their best system ever, right? The 360 sold 80 million consoles. It was a beloved system, probably my favorite system of all time. Well, it's definitely the one I played the most. And to be ahead of the 360, to Xbox is probably important, right? But then other people were taking his tweet as being like confirmation that the 13.87 million that VGCharts was reporting was the correct number. And there's debates back and forth about whether or not that's true. People were calling Aaron Greenberg a hypocrite because he had tweeted 12 years earlier that lol, VGCharts, nobody uses it, etc., 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 right? So people were clowning Greenberg for using VGCharts when in the past he said they were no good. And then we got today NPD results for March, and Xbox had their best March ever. Like for any of their platforms, they had sold the most Xbox consoles since March of 2011, which was the 360 era, and the most dollars or the most revenue since 2014, which was right off the launch of the Xbox One. And that Xbox was like the leader in revenue for all of quarter one, so January, February, March. And they essentially outsold PlayStation in that time frame. So what do you think about all this? What do you think about the VGChart stuff? What do you think about NPD? Is this a sign of things to come? Is Xbox actually closer to PlayStation than people realize? What are your takeaways from this? Because this is, I think, quite impressive.
Yeah, I think it's I agree with you that it's not necessarily indicative that those figures from VGCharts are 100% accurate. What I've been told is that the trend is accurate. That they are trending ahead of the 360, and that there is really strong growth, and that it's worth celebrating basically. So I have no idea if their figures are completely accurate. I think a lot of people at Xbox don't really know if they're 100% accurate. Probably only people higher up know the exact numbers because they don't share the numbers anymore with the shareholders or anyone else. And if you're going to share those numbers specifically internally, someone would probably leak them, or they get leaked by accident or something like that, if they're written on a chalkboard somewhere or something like that. So while I don't know if those figures are right, the trend is obviously right, and it's doing really well. It's like the formula they've got with the cheaper entry point with the Series S, making it easier to manufacture, and also hitting multiple price points, and also Game Pass being a sort of high value proposition. They got a really good formula. It's very well realized and very well thought out, and they're executing it really, really well. So, it's cool to see, and hopefully that translates again into more quality games from the sales, and also hopefully it translates into additional sort of support from third parties. We talk about Persona all the time and some of the games like that. But ultimately, are Xbox fans eating good? I think they will be, especially when we get Activision Blizzard on side and Bethesda starts its releases, and we end up in a situation where we've got so many games we can barely fit everything in. I think that is probably what's in the future for Xbox.
So, okay. I think Xbox wants to talk numbers. I think they are desperate to talk numbers. So even though I said Aaron Greenberg's tweet really only means that they're beating the 360, I think Xbox is chomping at the bit to report console numbers.
Right? Yeah, I think so too.
And I think that's Aaron Greenberg's tweet, I think, is basically an admission of that. But the problem you have with them announcing console sales figures is, for most of last generation, and in the lead up to this new gen, Phil Spencer was out there talking about how console sales aren't important, or they're not the be-all, end-all like they used to be. They're just one aspect of their business, right? And that even if they were beating the PS5, they wouldn't report console sales figures. I mean, these are direct quotes. And I think Xbox is doing really, really well, to the point where Microsoft and their marketing team probably want to shout from the rooftops just how well they're doing. Because the perception is that PlayStation is winning, and they're winning handily, right? Because PlayStation's out there and they're giving updates all the time. They give figures about everything, while Xbox doesn't say anything at all. And you just rely on VGCharts. So if there was some scenario where Xbox is doing maybe just as well as PlayStation, nobody would know outside of people who have the numbers, and the public would just go on thinking that PlayStation is winning like they normally do. So I think Xbox really wants to get out there and just tell people how great their product is selling in a time when you don't even need Xbox to play Xbox games. I mentioned that before. You can play everything Xbox puts out on PC. And yet, it's outselling the 360. It's outselling the Xbox One. They haven't really had any games come out from any of their acquired studios. So they haven't even hit their stride yet. You know, I don't even think Game Pass has hit its stride yet because it's waiting on first-party games. So you're in this scenario where like you haven't really put anything out. You don't need an Xbox, and you're doing better than ever. So I think that's quite impressive. I think Xbox wants to talk numbers, and I think they're sort of in this corner where they're between a rock and a hard place. Because if they do talk about hard figures, then the people on Twitter will say Phil Spencer's a hypocrite and Xbox is lying. And, oh, you said all last generation that sales didn't matter. And now you're saying now that sales do matter, right? So if you do start reporting sales figures because you're doing good, what happens if you then, you don't sell as well and you start losing again and you stop reporting console sales figures? Because then it flips to, oh, you're not reporting it because you are losing. So I think they're sort of in that rock and a hard place where they want to beat their chest. They want to tell the world just how good they are, but they can't because of previous comments. So they do these roundabout sort of things to kind of maybe get the message across. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think like if Satya Nadella said we should talk numbers, I think they'd end up talking numbers, because I think that's what happened with Game Pass in the past. I think Satya Nadella was like, we should report this to the shareholders, because the shareholders are ultimately the people who own the company, and they have a vested interest in this. But it's not just the shareholders when it comes to unit sales. It's also game devs. Like if game devs know that Xbox is a place where you can access the same level, the same audience, the same size audience, then that leads to presumably more support from third parties, So I think there's like several compelling reasons to report those numbers, even if, it exposes them to the Twitter mob, because, Twitter isn't the be all and end all. And, Twitter may even, cease to exist in the, under new management. So I don't think they should be beholden to noisy people on Twitter about whether or not they report on some of this stuff. I think they should just YOLO it and just be like, well, that's going to benefit us if we report those figures, and we should do it. So, but maybe they'll just be like, we don't need to report them right now. Maybe they'll wait for a bigger milestone to report them. But I can see them reporting them again in the future, especially if they start really, really, dominating. But I think one of the narratives would actually be like, so Microsoft's bribing AMD for access to silicon,
Yeah.
and they're throwing their money around. I don't think that. I think that's what the narrative will be, more than, oh, Phil's a hypocrite. I think they'll be like,
it's not fair. PlayStation can't get chips.
They're being anti.
Yeah. A couple super chats. Supernova says, "How is Avowed? Is she in good shape? Game of the year." I don't know. Have you seen anything more of Avowed recently?
I haven't seen anything of Avowed since, was it last summer? Yeah, last summer. So it looked pretty damn good even last summer, and I presume that was like pre-alpha footage. It looked fun, at least. So I'm presuming it's in a much better place than even when I saw it, and I guess we'll see it at E3. That's the expectation.
Yeah, Dubs, who's been a member for 10 months, says, how confident are you both about Certain Affinity's new IP for Xbox, and do you think Xbox should pick them up? I mean, they should definitely pick them up.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question they should pick them up, especially just given how much help they provide for Halo. I have no idea what their new IP looks like. Supposedly it's a Monster Hunter-ish kind of game. And I think that's going to be funny because the reports are that it has a sort of stylized cartoony art, kind of like that. Because Epic Games also has a Monster Hunter clone. What's it called?
I mean, even
Dawn
Monster
Tail or something?
Hunter's stylized though. You know?
Yeah, but like it's a little bit on the more photorealistic side, like the dragons are detailed and stuff like that. It's not like Sea of Thieves,
Sure.
cartooniness. But I don't know. It's
but like Dauntless, you mean the Epic game?
Yeah, Dauntless.
That's definitely more stylized. We'll just have to wait and see what the game looks like and how it plays.
Yeah.
Hargeet Channy, member for 6 months. How's it going, buddy? He says Xbox could report milestones at the shareholder meetings, which is true, and that is tomorrow. Maybe Satya is just like, no, we're dropping console sales numbers. You could say we've sold over 50 million consoles or something like that. And he also dropped a $5 super chat and says, to be fair, the ponies already said Phil lies, and everything Xbox does is terrible. Don't think it should matter. RDX Son of Fett says, Phil buy Tunic Dev and make it a franchise. So some of the other things from MPD was people have figured out at least the bottom range of the number, that in March of 2011 they sold 433,000 units. So it's definitely higher than that. Some people speculated it could be as high as like 600,000 for the month, which would be, pretty good. Well, actually, really good. I mean, it's their best month ever, and there's a shortage going on, and they're somehow selling 600 consoles, and there's no games, no first-party games for a while. So, I mean, that goes to show you that, people want the system. People believe in the vision, and then has that cheap Xbox Series S. That's going to really play out throughout the rest of the generation. You can't really, the hardcore may be like, that system's not for me, but for a lot of people out there, that cheap entry point is going to be, it's going to get more and more important as the generation goes on. So
I foresee the cheaper entry point just being a thing from now on,
One of the other things they mentioned, Jez, was that Elden Ring was #1 again. And Matt Piscatella says it's showing an inverse decay curve or something, which is amazing. He said it's truly a blockbuster or something in his report. The #1 selling accessory was the the Xbox Series 2 controller, Elite Series 2, once again.
Wow.
So I'm telling you, man, like that, they're of course gonna want to sell a Series 3 at some point. Look how well the Series 2 is selling. So it's like, yeah, they're gonna have another one. So I think we don't know the numbers of what Xbox is at, right? We know they're doing better than the 360. I think the better Xbox does, that sorts of really highlights a problem that PlayStation might have. Meaning, PlayStation last generation threw its weight around to get exclusive deals with companies based on the size of its user base compared to Xbox. So it made getting deals a lot cheaper for them than it would be for Xbox. Because if someone's coming to Sony and they're like, we'll sell you this game, you only have to cover the losses we'd get from Xbox from not putting it there. Well, Xbox was, less than half, right? Like, PlayStation was beating them 3-1 or whatever. And on the reverse side, it was difficult for Xbox to get deals because they would have to make up from the loss of all of PlayStation's user base. Now, if the numbers are close, then it'd be harder for PlayStation to get deals because now you'd have to cover for Xboxes, but now Xbox might have as many consoles sold as you, right? So the deals that they struck with Square Enix for Final Fantasy 16 or for Spoken or whatever at the beginning of the gen, probably based off projection that PlayStation 5 was going to just run away with this generation, they may not be able to pull those off in as great quantities as they were able to, simply because of the user base differences. If the numbers are close to PlayStation, I guess we may never find out, or maybe we will. That would definitely be an interesting day on Twitter if it was revealed that Xbox was like right on the heels of the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, it would be.
So let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, this Xbox job listing, Jez. People wanted me to mention it. Did you see this Xbox job listing for more acquisitions?
Actually, I think you mentioned it to me at some point. To
Yeah.
remind me.
Microsoft is seeking a manager to help evaluate future acquisitions in the games industry.
Yeah, that ain't
It says the gaming strategy and development team services are the corporate strategy function for Team Xbox. We partner closely with the gaming leadership team to identify and evaluate transformative growth opportunities. Our charter includes helping to answer Microsoft Gaming's most challenging business questions, leading gaming's mergers and acquisitions program, examples Activision Blizzard, ZeniMax, Double Fine, etc., and identifying and understanding key industry dynamics. So yeah, what do you make of this? What do you make of more job listings for more acquisitions?
I think they're just not slowing down. I think this is like they've identified a growth vector for gaming, whether it's on the development tool side. They had a load of announcements at GDC about developer tools and how many developers are using those tools. More and more devs are using, GameStack for their live ops stuff. More and more games are going to need live ops stuff. So they're kind of like they're seeing it in like a 1-2 punch. I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft makes some acquisitions in the development side soon as well, like engines or like or the more middleware. Like they bought Simply Gone a few years ago. They bought Havoc. They're not done, like, even disregarding game development studios. And I think if this Activision deal doesn't fall, if this Activision deal falls through, they're going to be back out there straight away looking for someone else to replace with that. Because they've obviously identified areas where they're weak, which is PC and mobile, and they obviously want to be in a position where they can compete with the rising threat from Tencent and Riot and stuff like that when it comes to that space. So Riot is Riot's an interesting dev because they have been like devouring Microsoft's not Microsoft, sorry. They've been developing Blizzard devs for ages. They've took a load of their artists. They've been growing Valorant nonstop, and they ignore console completely. Like there's no Valorant on console, and that presents an existential threat. Frankly, if they're making games that don't even factor on consoles, and they're just trying to bring more and more people to PC where it's an open platform, that presents a threat potentially to the console space. So Blizzard is about making sure there's a balance there, and that there's still games going to be coming to console, and that there's there is all that stuff. And that partially, I think, crossplay is a attempt to mitigate the migration from consoles to PC. But hopefully, there's a world where they can all coexist. And so if the Activision deal falls through, and I don't think it will, but if it does, they're going to look for a similar dev who's got PC chops, mobile chops, maybe a bunch of different devs, maybe ones that are less complicated to acquire. This week is supposed to be the Activision shareholder meeting where they do a vote on the deal. It's expected to go through because huge amount of profit, and I don't think there's any way Microsoft could Activision shares will return to their old levels without this deal. So any investor with half a brain will be approving that deal, I think. Except for there's one small activist shareholder group that is against it and stuff, but they have 1% of the shares or something. So I think it's gonna go through flying colors. I expect it upwards of 70% or higher, probably 80%. But there could be regulatory things that stop it going through. There could be legal challenges. There could be, politicians trying to make their name on blocking the deal and reining in big tech, quote unquote, And I'm sure this Elon Musk thing is going to also have an impact. I honestly think the Elon Musk thing is going to have an impact on the way Washington views tech consolidation. Because they don't like the idea of they potentially don't like the idea of one tech dude owning the most influential platform on earth. They probably don't like that, and it's gonna keep feeding that narrative that big tech is bad. Big tech is bad, and that could hurt Microsoft's chances here. But I don't know. Some of that speculation. Obviously, I've got no experience purchasing major companies, so take that with a pinch of salt. But I just think about possibilities, and I'm sure Microsoft's very expensive lawyers are thinking about those possibilities as well.
Yeah. Achievement says he's a member for 8 months. Says, you think Microsoft would be interested in acquiring a majority stake in Epic or outright buying Steam?
Yes, I think buying Steam would be a dream for Microsoft, but would it ever happen? Probably not.
And not in this current climate.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a future where they could land Steam, like with a different government in power, but I don't think right now they would have the regulatory clout to purchase Steam.
And a majority stake in Epic. That's Tim Sweeney. I think Tim Sweeney still owns the majority, right? He owns 51.
Yeah, they'd have to buy out Tim Sweeney's stake, so that would mean like Tim Sweeney wants to retire and stuff. And Tim Sweeney loves that company. Like, that's the reason he's 51% owners.
And they've had investment rounds, so they've been opportunities for Microsoft to invest, and they haven't. Where PlayStation has invested heavily into Epic.
Yeah.
Recently, so yeah, Tim Sweeney would have to sell, which won't happen for a while, if ever. So, yeah, I would imagine Microsoft would want to buy Steam. But I think like that would be looked at as a monopoly in this current, climate. That probably would not be looked.
Fly.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly. Toadpack Shakir says the shareholder vote already happened and went through. Activision announced today in their report it passed both Activision and Microsoft. No, the shareholder vote is on the 28th. What was in the report was that it was approved by the the boards of Activision Blizzard and Microsoft. The board is different. So the 28th is when every shareholder has a vote of whether or not to approve it. So, what else we got here? Oh, I want to talk about Xbox Summer Showcase. Okay. And I wanted to float out an idea to people out there to see what I think most people think of the Xbox Summer Showcase as coming in June, and it'll be like an hour-and-a-half show, 40-minute show. And I think a lot of people think it'll be an Xbox and Bethesda combined, right, Jez? Because that's how they did it last year.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Have you heard anything?
Well, no, I haven't. I mean,
no, you haven't.
No, I haven't.
And you haven't.
Have you?
I don't know.
It sounds like you're smiling.
So you haven't heard anything?
No.
No, you haven't. Okay.
I'm just saying. What if we're thinking of the wrong?
Rand hasn't heard anything.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
What if?
Let's hear one of your predictions.
Oh, please! This is not a prediction. I was just trying to get people's thoughts on this. What if Microsoft does 2 shows in June?
Ooh, what if?
What if they do 2 shows in June?
Yeah, what if? What if they do?
Well, because me and Nick were talking about it on Xbox Era.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, you know what? You still need to educate consumers that Bethesda is a part of Xbox, right?
That's right.
Xbox hasn't released, Bethesda hasn't released anything for Xbox yet.
Yeah.
And he said, well, what if they did 2 shows? What if they did a show in June on a Sunday, and it was your hour-and-a-half long, Xbox show, and then the next day there was a Bethesda show separate.
Ooh.
And the more I thought about it, the more I actually like that idea. Because as I was trying to think of what could be at the Xbox Summer Showcase, there's so much that could be there. But then you got to factor in Redfall's got to get a demo, and so does Starfield, And man, I don't know. Is there going to be any room for any other announcements from Bethesda, plus Xbox Game Studios, plus all these third-party announcements, plus maybe a trailer for Halo Infinite Season 3 with the Battle Royale, plus Forza? Like, there just seems to be too much stuff they could have in an hour and a half time frame, right? But talking to Nick about it, I was like, if they did two shows, one for just Xbox and one for Bethesda, then that frees up a lot of different time. Because now you don't have to worry about a Starfield demo or a Redfall demo during the Xbox show, so you can actually show more things, right? You could potentially announce more first party stuff or have more Game Pass deals. You wouldn't have to worry about that, and then Bethesda would have their own thing. And we already know that Bethesda is sort of kind of being kept separate, right? They're kind of their own thing. And I think they kind of want to retain their independence in that way. So like the more I think about it, like I'm very much on board with this plan if it actually happens. Like, so now I'm thinking to myself, you know what? 2 shows is best. Because we actually would get more bang for our buck. We would have 2 shows on 2 separate days, more things announced. You could have the Bethesda show and give a really good 20-minute in-depth demo of Starfield, a 10-minute demo of Redfall, and then some other announcements that Bethesda's doing, and it wouldn't infringe on anything Xbox is doing at their own show. I personally am a fan of that idea. Are you?
Yeah. Sounds really interesting.
I'm glad. What about chat? Is chat? How do you feel about 2 shows? How do you feel about an Xbox show and then a couple days later a Bethesda show? Is that something you'd be interested in, or do you want just one super show? Why are you laughing like that?
I'm just happy guy.
Are you?
Just a happy guy. I am a big fan of Randall predictions, personally.
It's not a prediction. It's just a thought.
Oh, it's just a thought. Yeah, okay. I'm a big fan of your thoughts.
Oh my god.
It's a really good thought. Be interesting if it came true. No?
I mean, it'd be cool if it was true.
Yeah, it'd be cool, wouldn't it?
Drawn TJ says, I am against crunch, but they can't use that excuse. They had 6-year development in the season so far, only 2 maps and 3 modes. Really, they need to do better. And Flame says, Jez's reactions are killing me. I hate you, Jez. So wow. We got a bunch of people saying 2 shows. Someone says, why not 3? 2 shows. Jack says 1 super show. Someone else says 1. B Staples says just keep it 1. Last year's show was the best Xbox show in years. Why change what finally works? 2. There's some people actually saying 1, Jez. It's not just 2. Sam Tolbert, our friend, says 100% on board with 2 shows. Redfall and Starfield need time to breathe. Plus, they'll have third-party stuff, presumably Forza Motorsport and other Xbox Game Studios titles. But the shows need to be close together. Poochie's been a member for 5 months, says, Jez, spill the damn beans. Spill the damn beans, Jez.
I do like beans.
M2L says, Xbox needs to get the Steam Deck hype and support. So, I don't know why you assume this means this is happening. It's just like a thought I was have, like, because now it makes sense, you know?
Yeah, it makes sense, man.
Like last year, Xbox Bethesda together, but then this year, they've had all this time to figure out what they want, and they're gonna have more stuff to announce. So it's like, yeah, you have your Xbox show on a Sunday, and then the next day have your Bethesda show, and you can dominate the gaming headlines because people are gonna look at it and be like, look at all the stuff that Xbox has. I don't know. I think it'd be interesting if it's super cool if that does happen that way.
I agree.
Hargeet says,
I agree with you, Rand. That would be super cool.
Hargeet says they've had 2 shows last couple of years, so they'll do that. Don't know if they should separate Bethesda from Xbox, but I think Rand knows something. I don't know anything.
No.
And what two shows have they had the last couple of years? I can't think of two shows. I think they've only done one. They did one last year, and they did one the year before. Have they done multiple shows? Because they did one. Last year was one show. Oh, in 2020 they had two because it was like that April show or May show that people hated, plus the showcase for the launch. And then the year before, they did XO19. So they've done multiple shows, but this would be like, essentially two shows in the same week, maybe even back to back. Chris R says, is June the rough time frame for the show, or is that speculation? That's just speculation. I mean, Jeff Grubb has talked about it being June. So we're going to go with the E3 time frame, the Jeff Keighley Summer Games Fest time. So I would imagine probably roughly the same time frame last year was. Although I wouldn't be against the idea of doing it in May, So
I just want some news, man.
Yeah, that'd be Oh, well, I mean, they also, the Paris one. People are saying Paris did the follow-up deeper dive the following day. That is true. I mean, I totally forgot about that. But I don't know. I kind of really don't consider that a show per se. At least not on the same level as, like, the main show. But I get what you guys are saying. Yeah. So, got anything to add, Jez? What are you looking forward to the most at the Summer Showcase?
Oh man, I don't know. I'm looking forward to finding out if there's anything that I don't know about. I want to see Avowed in its sort of polished form, because obviously I saw it in a very pre-alpha form. I'm looking forward to basically everything. Like a lot of the stuff that Microsoft's working on right now are things that I am specifically interested in. I'm interested in Project Belfry. It sounds right up my alley, base building, sort of action RPG narrative kind of game. That sounds really awesome to me. I'm sort of, there's just a lot of cool stuff that just sounds great. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because I wonder if they're going to announce launch dates, because a lot of people are kind of like tired of waiting. And if Microsoft's going to like announce games that are, really far out, it sort of kicks the ball down the road again. I think people want to hear about games that are coming out towards the end of 2022 and maybe earlier in 2023, just to give us a roadmap and stuff like that. But they do have both Bethesda and Xbox Game Studios, and there's a load of projects that Xbox Game Publishing are working on. And also, Ram, we forgot to mention that they announced a cloud publishing division, like a whole separate division dedicated specifically to games that work across platforms and are good for streaming. So maybe we'll hear something from them. I don't know. A lot of the projects that have been leaking are stuff from ages ago, So there's going to be like new projects that they've got on board recently, maybe stuff that's further along for development and that kind of stuff. It's really hard to say where it could go. But
I think people want at least years slapped onto something, right? I think people want to see Hellblade 2 and then have it say at the end 2023, or say Avowed and then have 2023 at the end to at least know what to expect, when to expect it. Like, you got away with not having years on your stuff in 2020 at your showcase when it was all CG and none of it had years, right? Except for Halo, which ended up getting delayed anyways. So I also kind of feel like, what people want is probably gameplay of a lot of these titles, and they want to know when, at least what year they should expect a lot of these games to release. So, if they provide, like, here's what's coming this year and here's a look at the gameplay, and then here's what you can expect from Xbox in 2023, and it's a decent clip of games, I think people will love that, personally. Drawn TJ says, I want to see Hellblade 2 and State of Decay 3 and Fable. Do you think State of Decay 3 going to be there, Jez? You think?
State of Decay 3, it might be too early for State 3, unfortunately.
Fable,
again, maybe too early.
I mean, they just did show off Hellblade 2. Did they show it again?
Again, maybe that's like the Game Awards thing they like to show off.
Mm.
I don't know. It's hard
Uh,
to say, really, because they have been so quiet and not really full-blown hinting anything. It's really hard to sort of put a sort of amount of guesswork in. I think the only one we know for sure is probably Avowed,
yeah.
right?
Well, I think Forza Motorsport. I think Forza Motorsport will be there, but yeah. Yeah, Batnab says if Microsoft doesn't show a lot of gameplay, we riot. You know what? That's what I want to see, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, hopefully it gets announced somewhat soon. We are almost in May. It's supposed to be in June, so maybe one of these weeks soon you'll wake up and see a Rand video, which I actually want to make some videos again. I just need something to actually talk about, so look for those soon. And with that,
to make shit up, man. Like I'm doing an article next week.
I think
about
everybody
Overwatch.
knows my opinions about stuff.
Yeah.
We'll see, Jez. But with that, I think we've come to a good stopping point for the show. If you guys have any questions, make sure to put them in chat, and we will do our best to answer them. Thank you guys so much for being here on a Monday. We had over 1,000 people, which is incredible. You guys are amazing. One of the best chats out there. Thank you for all the support. Hit the like button on your way out. If you're listening to this later on Spotify or iTunes or whatever, leaving a review helps tremendously. Whether you want to leave a 5-star review and say it's the best Xbox podcast ever, or a 1-star review and say Rand sucks and is shill, then so be it. But leaving reviews help. So thank you so much for everything you guys do. And don't forget Manscaped, code XB2 at checkout. People seem to love the boxers, so maybe try those. Zid says 2 shows. First ends with Starfield trailer, and then gameplay tomorrow. I could see that. I could see that happening. You show off like a 2-minute Starfield trailer and says, tune into the Bethesda show tomorrow for in-depth gameplay. I think that could work. See, we got any questions here, Jez? Oh, doesn't sound like Jez is here anymore.
Oh, I am. Questions.
We got one from Face who says PS5 finally got VRR this week. Indeed, I did see that was announced on Twitter. VRR is amazing, and I love it. And I think what they say, 14 games are currently using it on PlayStation or something like that.
I leaked that.
You did.
I'm a PlayStation leaker now.
You have a TV with VRR now, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm actually using it right now.
Isn't it amazing?
It is, yeah. I'm like, I remember thinking like, oh man, why would you ever need more than 60 frames per second? And now it's like you can seamlessly switch between 60 and 120 on Overwatch, and it's like, wow, over 120 is like, I can't even go back to 60 frames now.
Yeah. Darren says, if the Activision deal goes through, do you think we'll return to the glory days of movie tie-in games? No,
Ooh.
I do not think so.
Well, aren't they working on a Avatar game? Who's making that?
That's
Am I going mad?
Ubisoft, I believe, working on that.
Oh yeah, Ubisoft. Okay.
All those movie tie-in studios are basically all working on Call of Duty at this point. And I think, as Jez always said, margins on those licensing is an issue.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't really see a return of movie tie-in games. And most of those movie tie-in games weren't good anyways. So, what else we got here? Fuzzy Belvedere, what's going on, buddy? He says, any ideas if Deathloop will have DLC when coming to Game Pass? Jez, any idea?
Yeah, I think like when Deathloop and Ghostwire come to Xbox, I'm expecting that they will have some kind of upgrade attached to them, whether it's like new features and new systems or new areas and new stuff to do. Because I know this is one thing Microsoft likes to do is when a game has been exclusive to PlayStation, they often like try to sort of sweeten the deal to be like, yeah, this has like extra stuff in it now that it's coming to Xbox. It's like if you go back and look at some of the indie games that hit Xbox after the fact, they had like some kind of extra DLC or something to sweeten the deal. So I think Microsoft will also add that as well.
What else we got here? Gary says, if you could choose where the next Fallout game will take place, where would you want it to be? Chicago. Fallout Chicago.
Fallout Chicago.
Yeah, I want to be able to walk through my hometown in the post-apocalyptic future. I would definitely really enjoy that. I did see that supposedly the new Need for Speed is set in a fictional Chicago. That makes me immediately interested in playing that game.
That's interesting. I would like it in Britain because all the Fallout games are in America, I think, off the top of my head. It'd be nice if there was one that showed what the state of the world is like beyond America. The Fallout games are always sort of America, America, America.
Yeah.
But I would love to see one like in London or something, showing that London blown up. That'd be interesting.
Justin says, Jez, what are your thoughts on Roundhouse Studios' rumored Planets of the Apes game?
It's interesting. I've never actually watched Planets of the Apes. Have you?
Yeah, it's really good. Yes.
Is it? Yeah. I've never seen it. So
well, they're from the last two Planet of the Apes movies are from the director of the Batman, Matt Reeves.
All right, I did not know that. That was a great movie, by the way. I watched that. Did we talk about it on the show?
No, I watched it on HBO Max and I loved it.
Oh yeah, I watched it in the cinema a few weeks ago, and I thought it was probably my second favorite movie beyond The Dark Knight.
It's funny because I was talking to Zalker, and Zalker says that movie's awful. I just laughed at him. I'm like, imagine not liking the Batman. No, Zalker said the movie was stupid. I'm like, imagine not liking the Batman, Zalker. I don't know.
What was stupid?
Because Zalker thinks he's some comic book god who knows everything, who knows more than everybody else about stuff.
Oh man, I've read a bunch of Batman comics, but it's always about the movies for me. I don't know. And also, Batman animated was so sick.
Yes.
Even like Batman Beyond, was so damn good. You know what's weird though, by the way?
What?
In the UK, Batman Beyond was called Batman of the Future for some reason. I have no idea why. It had a different name, but it maybe, I don't know. That was really strange. But again, it's there's a lot of weird licensing issues with Batman. So maybe that was why. I don't know.
Yeah, he says Roundhouse Studios is making a Planet of the Apes game. Is that new information? Or is that just...
I have no idea.
Because then nobody knows what Roundhouse Studios is making, so...
It's interesting.
GKN says, talking about IP growth, what do you think about Microsoft getting IPs like Final Fight, Golden Axe, Berserk, a heavy combat narrative, mature Ninja Turtles game, and an Afro Samurai?
I'd love to see a Berserk game, but honestly, Microsoft is not the right publisher for this. Berserk is like hyper violent, and Microsoft... If you notice, a lot of Microsoft games are humans versus monsters. They don't really like humans versus humans because, then it's a new level of violence when it's humans versus humans. And I know Guts fights a lot of demons, but there's also a lot of people killed in those spots. So I don't think Microsoft would make a good Berserk game. I really don't. But that being said, there's like... People often talk about like Microsoft should buy IP and stuff and revive them. And they are getting a ton of IP with this Activision deal. And Phil has talked about reviving some games. Like he talked about Skylanders, I think, specifically, even Guitar Hero and stuff like that. So I think that'd be really cool if they did revive some of that stuff. But will they? I guess we'll have to... Only time will tell, really.
Yeah, is your controller going crazy or what?
Yeah, sorry, I had it on my desk there. I put it down for a moment and the rumble went crazy. But sorry about that.
We have a question from the Truth Teller. Jez, anything new regarding the Xbox Kojima deal? Is it just at initial planning stages? ?
This was always Jeff Grubb's information. I never had a shred of information about this Kojima stuff. It must have been like really top secret or just in a sort of a place where I couldn't access the information. So I have literally no information about that. Never heard anything about it. So best person to ask about that is Jeff Grubb.
Spike says, want Microsoft to do a modern Blades dashboard for the Series X and S. A lot of people want like a different dashboard, especially the blades. I always hear when blades come back, blades could come back. You know.
Yeah, I do hear about the blades a lot, and if you notice, the start menu is sort of a callback to the blades. The way it's sort of layers and stuff. They specifically referred to the blades when they were designing that. So I don't think the blades will come back, but I do think they've probably seen a lot of the memery about it needing a more, I don't know, streamlined appearance. People want to see more of their background, you know. And it's like if you have like animated backgrounds and you can't even see them, then what's the point, you know? So I hear that criticism a lot, and I put an article out recently, you know, to amplify some of those criticisms people have about it, which I think are pretty valid. So I think they will be doing something. As exactly when they'll be doing something, it's really hard to pinpoint, you know.
Yeah. What else we got here? John wants to know if we think Machine Games Indiana Jones game will be first or third. I don't know what it's going to be, but I would definitely prefer it if it's third person. That's what I would want.
I have no idea on that. I imagine it is third person because you want to see Indiana Jones, right?
Yeah.
It'd be weird if it wasn't first person.
Plus, you
And
know,
again, Chronicles of Riddick was first person.
Like, kind of want Perfect Dark to be third person, but they're doing first person, so it's kind of like third person is Indiana Jones. Kind of just, yeah. To me, it's like Indiana Jones only really works if it's third person, right?
Yeah.
RDX on the Fed says Scorn and Exomecha at Game Show. Maybe. Who knows? I mean, I don't know if Microsoft usually doesn't want to like showcase the same sort of games at the shows, so there might be extra stuff. So I don't know. I personally don't want to see Scorn or Exomecha at the shows again. We've seen them enough. So new stuff, please. Personally.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see here. What else? Dio Game says, does the Contractor problem affect non-343 Xbox game studios?
I haven't been able to get good information about the Contractor thing.
I believe that's like a Microsoft-wide thing, is it not?
Yeah, it sounds like a Microsoft-wide thing, but at the same time, I kind of feel like that's really strange that they'd be that inflexible, because that seems like counterintuitive in a big way. I would have thought. So I wanted to confirm that was actually a thing before I commented on it, but I haven't been able to. So maybe it is just a thing. I don't know. I'm gonna ask some people about that.
Let's see what else we got here. I think that's it. That's all the questions this week. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in this Monday. We will be back with another show this week. So 2 shows in 1 week, with hopefully a lot more to talk about. You guys are amazing, and we'll see you in a few days, I guess. So have a good rest of the day and a good rest of the week, and keep it gaming.
Keep it gaming, guys.
Later.